Hey y'all, it's a cloudy, dreary old morning here in East Tennessee, but you know what? It's February and we got some warm temperatures, so we're gonna take advantage and try to catch us some catfish today. I launched here in this creek and I've come back here toward the back of it. And what I want to do is take a minute or two here and throw the net and get us some fresh shad. I've got us some bait already in the cooler. I've got us some skipjack. I loaded up on those, and I've got some shad in there that's a few days old. But what I'd like to do here to start our trip is just throw the net. I'm seeing a bunch of shad activity back here, especially further on back here, just flipping everywhere. I think we can make one, maybe two throws, load up on those, which what I hope is threadfin. I'd like to have some smaller threadfin shad. That way, we're gonna work our way out of this creek today. That's the plan. I'm gonna start back here dirt shallow, and we're gonna troll dragging baits all the way out to the entrance of this creek, which will be somewhere around 40 feet deep once we get out there. But I'd like to take our bigger baits, the skipjack, drag those on normal catfish rigs. Then, if we can get some of these, hopefully the smallest shad we can get, I'm gonna take one of them alive, put on a jig head and troll that behind us too. So hopefully if we come across any fish that are up in the water column, maybe some crappie, maybe some drum, whatever, we'll have us some bonus bait and maybe throw those on there too. And then I'm gonna take another light action rod, put a couple of these live shad on, and we'll suspend it off the front of the kayak. So we're gonna drag two catfish baits off the back, suspend some live shad off the front, and then also troll a crappie jig off the back with a live shad. So enough of this, y'all. We got to get to it here. We ain't gonna net these shad if I keep sitting here holding the camera. So I'm gonna get my net together here. Y'all come with me. Grab your fishing poles. Grab you some snacks. We're going fishing today, everybody. We got a few hours here before the rain moves in. It looks nasty out here. It's dreary, but the radar is clear. We got some rain coming in, but it's not going to be here till this afternoon according to the weather report. And you know them damn weather reports has never been wrong. I've never met a meteorologist that had a wrong weather report. So there's no way we're getting wet out here, but you might want to bring an umbrella just in case. Get you a slicker and some galoshes. But let's me and you, I don't know if it's going to show up on camera because of the poor lighting right now, but I've come back here in this creek and you can just see where shad are popping here on the surface, just ripples. And when you get closer and in better lighting, you'll oftentimes actually see the shad. Like you'll see the change in the watercolor where it'll be like a, you know, a darker color where the school is. Like right over here, at this light angle, I can see right over here, I can see that massive school of shad. Let's go over here and throw on that one. We'll make one throw and be done. But I've got a bucket here, 5-gallon bucket. I put some water in it there to launch. We'll keep these things alive, a few of them anyway. I don't need a lot, but you throw in a big school like this, you'll get a net full. We'll keep them alive here, hopefully for the duration of our trip. At least here for the start anyway. All right, let's just take our net. This is a 6-foot net, 3/8 inch. That's a lousy throw. I'm worried about throwing y'all and this camera off my chest as I fling this thing around. It hasn't happened yet, but it only takes one time of it happening. Oh, look at, well, by gosh, folks, I was talking about maybe getting a drum on the live shad, and I'll be damned if we didn't accidentally net one. A massive one at that. He's gonna spook all these shad off, ain't he? Boy, look at that thing, y'all. How about that for starting a trip? That's a hell of a bycatch. That one's too big. I don't want to fool with that one as far as cutting him up for bait. So it's your lucky day, drum. I'd like to have caught you on the lighter tackle rod, though. You got in the way, buddy. Get out of here. He don't care. That ornery old thing. I did get a couple shad. Those are a little bit bigger thread fins than, we'll probably put those on our dragging rods at some point. We'll definitely keep those, but they, oh, there they are. Okay. Let's see if you can make a better throw. I'm gonna let y'all throw this time. You tell me if you can, if I can trust you to make a better throw. Don't sling this camera out of my chest either when you do it. We're in for a bad time today if that happens. I guess if you're seeing this, it didn't happen. There you go. That's a pretty good throw y'all made right there. That thing opened up real good. We're 4 feet of water here where we're at, by the way. Let's see if we got anything. Yeah, we did. Actually, I think them might be gizzards. Yeah, some larger. I think them is gizzards right there. There's one larger one and then some mediums. We'll certainly take those too. I was hoping to find some thread fins though. Let's mosey on back here a little bit. If these over here are gizzards, that right there looked like a smaller flip. Let's throw right there. We're going to use these gizzards too, folks. We'll make use of them. They ain't going to go to waste, but I want to get some just small 2-3 inch thread fins. I thought we wouldn't have any issues with that. Well, looks like we got more gizzards. Well, this area is loaded with gizzards, folks. Back here in these backwaters, when you get some warmer temperatures, which we've had the last few days, in the winter, yeah, crap, that's all gizzards right there. All right, well, if at first you don't succeed, there's got to be some thread fins somewhere up in this thing, folks. Let's go right over here. I ain't gonna spend a lot of time on this because I mean we have bait. Lord, we got enough gizzard shad right here to fish all morning. I was just hoping to get something small to stick on that crappie head or jig head. What we can do though, if we don't end up getting some thread fin, we can take just a small cut of the gizzard shad and put it on there. And yeah, it's cut bait, but it's on a jig head, it's actively moving. Like you will catch some crappie and drum and yellow bass and things like that too if you put it in front of them. I'd just rather have a live thread fin if I had my druthers, but I don't have my druthers right now. We're at the mercy of whatever we get in this net. But anyway, wintertime, again, it's February, water temps 48 degrees back here, which is a significant increase from what it was just a few days ago. Just a few days ago, water temps in the backwaters was colder than the main channel. Now with this heat trend we've went through, we got the opposite going on. It's much warmer in the backwater, so it's brought all these shad back here, and I'm hoping it's brought the catfish with them. So we're gonna start, when we start fishing, we're gonna start kind of back here, toward the back of this where all the bait is, and work our way out and hopefully run into the fish along the way, catfish anyway. I'm gonna make just 1 or 2 more throws. We got some flipping right up here. I wanna see what these are. If we pull in, if these are all gizzards right here, I'm not gonna bring them in the floor here. We'll dump them back over the side. We don't need any more gizzards unless they're just huge in size or something. You know, they're all out here. Five feet deep right here for those of you keeping track at home. Well, y'all didn't make as good a throw that time. You got paranoid on the follow through about throwing the net into the camera and taking it overboard. Let's see if we got anything with it though. Yeah, we did. Well, maybe we will bring him in. I think them some bigger gizzards right there. Yeah, all gizzards back here today, folks. We'll keep an eye out as we make our way up through here. We may end up throwing again if we see some, what we know for sure is threadfin. All right, we'll get your net out the way here, folks. Let's get rid of this for a second. We'll just stick it here up under the seat. Let's just throw that big one right there especially. We'll use him for sure. Let's get that other big one too. We may start with them. We'll put them on alive on our dragon rigs. These others here, like I said, we'll make use of them. We may just go. I've got skipjack in my cooler. I finally got on some skipjack again, y'all. But water temps, I mean, you can see water temps 48 degrees here. When water temps are that cold, gizzard shad really shines as a bait here in East Tennessee. So we may start with the gizzards and maybe cut one and put one on live on our dragon rigs. I'm gonna get us kind of back out here in the channel a little bit. You can see it's just the very back of it here where we're at. I want to get out here and just get a little depth, and then we're going to set our speed to 1/2 mile an hour. We'll get our dragon rigs on, and then we'll put out everything else. I want to get out here kind of just in front of where the bulk of this bait is at, because we're going to be competing with, so if we drop our baits right here, hell, there's 5 million shad here. It's hard to stand out. I want to get out here just in front of them a little bit, and that way we can intercept catfish that are coming back here to eat these 5 million shad. At least attempt to, anyway. All right, let's just start it here. I'm going to hit the north heading button. I'm going to hit the cruise control button, which will slow us down to 1 mile an hour, and then I'm going to hit it 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you know what? Let's do that again and see if it'll. You know what? I hate Motor Guide. It's always something with this thing. Hell, half the time I'm setting my speed, I got to do it 4 or 5 times. All right, let's try it again here. Okay, now I think it's going to hit a mile. Now we're going to knock it off 0.1 mile in increments 5 times. Okay. Now I think we're cooking with Crisco, y'all. Let's get our dragon rigs going here. This is a Golly Whopper rod, my signature series rod, 40-pound mainline, Shimano Dakota reels. I've got a dragging rig tied on. That's a 10-aught size circle hook, 80-pound leader. You've got a float and rattle just a couple inches above the hook, up to a 3-way where you've got a dragging sinker on there. I think on this side, we are going to put on this fella right here. That is a pretty nice gizzard shad right there, folks. I think what I'll do is just put a little slice in him. Just put a little cut. Y'all turn your heads a second. I'm gonna just get him bleeding just a little bit. That way he can, as he's kicking along, he can also put off a scent trail for us too. I'm not gonna wound him real bad, but just enough to get him bleeding just a little bit there. Okay, y'all can turn around now. The graphic part is done. There we go, folks. Old gizzard shad. Down he goes. We'll start letting out some line on him. Get our other rig going here. It's a dragging rig also, the same exact setup that I just described. We're gonna run 2 of these rods. Again, we're starting here 7 feet deep. Run 2 of these. We ain't getting no line going out on that thing. There we go. I think on this one, we're gonna use a piece of cut bait. We'll go ahead and, we got all these damn shad here in the floor. We might as well use them. I'm gonna we'll just cut this one here, use the front half of him. There we go. So now we're gonna have a whole shad that's on alive dragging. We'll have a head bait on dragging. Once we get out a little bit deeper, I don't want to bother putting on the lighter tackle suspended bait here at 8 feet of water because there's just not enough depth to be realistic on that. But after we get out here, let's say we get out here about 10, 12 feet deep, we'll put that on. And I'll just take some smaller pieces of the shad, we'll cut them up smaller and put on there since we didn't get any thread fin. And if we poked around here in this creek, if we kept throwing and throwing and throwing, we'd eventually find the thread fin. I promise you we would. They're in here. But I don't want to waste a lot of time with it because that was just going to be kind of a novelty thing for us to, and we're still going to do it. We'll just take a piece of cut bait and put on that jig head and throw behind us and stuff. And we'll have a reasonable chance of catching something on the cut bait too, as far as the light tackle rod up front goes. I just want to be a little bit deeper when we put out both of those rods because at a 1/2 mile an hour, even trolling a 1/32 ounce jig head, it's going to be on bottom pretty quick. So I want to get a little bit more depth before we throw that out. But hopefully, folks, we're going to catch us some catfish today. If you're seeing this, good news. We've got on some. I have struggled lately. This is the first, if assuming we get a video today, it'll be my first video in a week. My last video, I know for viewing purposes, it was just a few days ago. But that was because I was ahead on videos coming into that one. I have struggled, y'all. We had a warm stretch here. We've had a few days of temps, at least afternoon temperatures anyway, in the 60s. And like I said, it's heated up these backwaters. It's got fish on the move, I feel like. At least it should have. And man, I have fished shallow. I have fished deep. I've been after it. And I just ain't done any good. It's catch a fish here, catch a fish there. I'm not having the kind of action I want. So today, we're going to get back to covering some water. I've been trying to suspend fish lately. Suspend fish and anchor fish. Today, we're going to drag. We're going to troll. We're going to cover some water. And I think today is going to greatly help our chances of getting our baits in front of active fish. The more water you can cover, the more likely that is to happen. And with the warmer temperatures and all this bait on the move, I'm inclined to believe that fish we do come across are going to be pretty active and willing to eat. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I have struggled, man. I have. It's been tough on me lately. Sometimes you got it and sometimes you don't, folks. And lately, I just ain't got it. But I never have it really this time of year. January, February, early March for me is always a tough time period. There's a lot of weather changes. There's a lot of, not so much this year, but just in general, you oftentimes have a lot of rain and you'll have water depth fluctuations, and I just don't do good with that. I don't fish as much in the winter, and it's hard for me to pattern fish because of that. All right, I think we got enough line out finally on that. We're gonna flip the bail over, let's see. Put it over on that other one too. They should be running different depths now, or different distances, I should say. So we got our 2 dragging rigs going off the back here. We'll have them back there, I don't know, 50 yards. One of them probably 50 yards, the other one 100 yards approximately. Doesn't really matter in a day like today where it's calm. We don't have any wind out here. It's other than being cloudy and dreary, and we may get wet at some point today. It's a nice day, y'all. So I'm gonna put y'all here in the chest. We're going unedited, raw and uncut today. You're gonna see it all from now when we've netted shad and one unfortunate drum to when I roll out of here. I'm gonna try to fish the morning hours, do a morning session till around lunchtime. I got an appointment this afternoon, so I can't stay out here too terribly long today, but we'll just see what we can do here in the short term. I'm gonna put my knife up so I don't step on that thing. I ain't trying to take y'all to the ER today. Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't even know what y'all done with the cover for it. Is it still in the hatch? Let's get our pliers out too. Might need our scissors. What'd y'all do with my knife? The sheath. How did y'all lose that thing? Oh, there it is. Y'all's hiding it from me. It's over here to my left. Every time I fish with y'all, you try to play games with me and try to mess with me somehow. I don't know why you do that to me. Ain't nice of yous. Yeah, folks, this creek's a fairly long creek. And I put in on up here, there's a boat ramp up here. I actually fished this creek before I went to Florida back in January and caught several fish. Now, granted, a lot has changed from then to now. We had the polar vortex come through while I was going to Florida, and the first week I was back home, it really dropped temperatures a lot. I mean, just plummeted. Really bottomed out the water temperatures. It was 41 degrees water temps. Then, the last few days, of course, we've had this unusually warm stretch where we've had afternoon temps in the 60s. And, water temps now, it was 48 back there in the back. Now we're up to 49 as we're getting out here. So that's a huge spike in temperatures. And when you get that kind of change, these bait fish, man, they're gonna flock to that warmer water. And where the bait fish goes, the predator fish goes. And I don't know, I've certainly not seen any evidence of it firsthand, but I was gone for most of that polar vortex. There may have been a shad kill too, potentially, when it was really frigid cold. There may have been, and them catfish may have been gorging on them things for all I know. Now, granted, I got home, it was still cold, so I didn't fish for a week after I got back. So I don't really know what was going on out on the water, but it's possible we had a shad kill. Obviously didn't get all of them. There's still a bunch back here. That one there in our bucket ain't doing too good, is he? Oh, we got another one in there too. There he goes back down. We'll try to keep him alive for a little while. Like I said, I got skipjack. The older shad I've got in my cooler, we're not going to bother with it today because we've got fresh right here in the floor now. But I do have us some skipjack we can try. Man, right now, temps in the 40s, I like gizzard shad. This is the time of year where I really like shad. But I did finally get on them skipjack. I struggled all last year with skipjack, but they were stacked up. The other day I found them in a creek and it was a fish on every cast. So I got us about a dozen in the cooler. We'll work in today, maybe tomorrow if the weather allows. I don't know why I bother talking to you about going fishing tomorrow. You ain't going to want to go fishing with me if we don't catch nothing. And lately, like I said, I've been fishing the last few days. I just ain't been doing particularly good. I did catch a really nice fish a few days ago. I caught it like 20 minutes into the trip, and I was like, hell yeah, it's on today. And I sat there the rest of the afternoon and didn't get another bite. One nice fish, and didn't get another bite the rest of the day. It's just, it can be like that. But I'm hoping back in here in this creek, I'm hoping we can get some action and maybe come across some better quality fish at some point too. I think when we drop the light tackle rod down here in a little while, I just put on some, smaller pieces of these shad. I definitely think we'll get hit on it. But like that shad that we got on the live over there, I mean, he's probably 8 inches, every bit of it. It's gonna take a bigger fish to eat that. But I wanna have a big bait out just in case. We always, as catfishermen, we always cut up our bait, right? And part of that is to get it bleeding so that it disperses the blood and the oils and all that, and gets a scent out there for the catfish to find it. But in reality, these catfish, they're swimming around, living here, eating here 365 days a year. Those fish aren't finding cut up pieces of bait. Unless it's a situation where bass boat runs 70 miles an hour through a school of shad, they're probably churning up some of them shad, right? Like they're cutting up some of them. That happens, I'm sure. But it's not happening all the time. Most of the bait, most of the fish that the cats are going to eat are going to be whole fish that they've either caught that were alive and swimming, they've chased them down and caught them, or it's whole fish that have died, either of natural causes, sickness, injury, whatever. Whole fish that are just floated down, they've fallen down on the river bottom. So as far as the size of the bait goes, like if a catfish came back in here in this creek and they were going to eat something back here, well, what's the most common bait and size of fish that's back here? Well, it's obviously gizzard shad in the 5 to 6 inch range from the looks of the floor of my kayak. So any of those that have died laying down on the bottom, whether it be from a shad kill or just natural causes, catfish comes up on them, he's going to have to eat it whole. Now, them smaller cats, they can sit down there and bite them and stuff and, chew them to pieces, but just like they would if they were on your hook and they were sitting there nipping. But when they come up on that fish, it's whole. But as catfishermen, for whatever reason, we just don't use a lot of whole baits. We're going to use one today, though, by gosh. We got him on the left, the other one on the right. We're out to 10 feet now. Let's throw out our jig. This is a 1/32 ounce jig head, just a small hook. I don't know what size that hook is. I'm guessing probably a number 6, maybe a number 4 at the most. 6-pound line, light action rod. We're going to just take a sliver of this gizzard shad, just a sliver, and throw it out on there. And hopefully, if we're fortunate, maybe catch some crappie or drum on this thing. I hope we do anyway. It'd be nice if we catch a legal size crappie. Crappie's another bait I really like in cooler water. I like it kind of in early spring, which we're a ways away from that right now, being early February, but water temps are getting as such that Crappie, it's a good cold water bait. So here we got this, folks. It's a cut bait on a jig head. And it's going to put off some scent and some flash as we just pull it through the water. And I'm going to toss it out here behind us, right in between our dragging lines. I'm not going to run it real far back because we're still 10 feet deep here. Now I'm just going to stick it back here in the back rod holder and hope to God we don't get that thing hung. At least it'll be easy to break off with 6-pound line. But we'll throw it back there. Y'all holler if you hear that thing going. Let me check my drag on it there, because yeah, we should hear that if a fish hits. May not feel it being a light rod there in the back, but we should at least hear the drag pulling. We can go ahead too and go ahead and bait this, and we'll just lower it down once we get on out. This is it's a medium heavy inshore rod, but it's lighter, I consider it lighter tackle for catfish anyway. It's not actually light tackle, but it's lighter tackle for catfish. So I've got a Kentucky rig tied on. It's dropper loops with these little, I'm pretty sure these are 1/0 size circle hooks. And then at the bottom, we've got a dragging sinker. So we've got 2 hooks on there, which in Tennessee, we can have 3 hooks per line. So we're within our boundaries here. Y'all don't be calling the law on me. Let's take one of these other gizzard shad here. I'm gonna toss the head over. I'm gonna put 2 small pieces of the chunk. Cut all that poop out of him too. What are these things? They're the poopinest things. About the poopinest fish there ever was, folks. I don't know what makes gizzard shad poop so much, but boy, there's something else. Suspending baits like this, I don't really like suspending baits under 20 feet deep, but in this situation, at least we've got a cloudy day. The water's kind of clearer, but at least we've got a cloudy day, so we're not putting off a big shadow under us. Not making a whole lot of noise in the kayak here. I try to sit still most of the time, so we're not banging around and making a bunch of noise right there under us. Because when you're in clear water and you're fishing just a few feet deep, man, sound travels fast, and you've got a big presence in a kayak, putting off a huge shadow. Like, you're going to spook some fish if you ain't careful. Going right over the top of them anyway, which, this bait here, this rig here, we're going to be dropping down right under us. So it's going to be, if we spook the fish that are going to be potentially right under us, we can't catch nothing on this, right? But once we get out a little deeper, it's not as big a deal. Once we get out there 15, 20 feet deep and deeper, not even in clear water, it's not as big a deal. I actually think these up here, I'm gonna stand up just a second. There is some ripples on the water here. I'm wondering if that ain't our thread fin. Some more right there. I don't really want to throw though, because if I throw, then we'll have to move this rod. And I am left-handed, however, I throw a cast net right-handed. And so for me, it is easier to throw this direction in this lane from a kayak. I can throw left-handed. So like if the wind is blowing a certain way and I've got to work one side of the bank and control the way the kayak's going, like, I can throw left-handed. But I get more consistent pancakes with the right hand. I don't know why that is. I don't know why me throwing opposite of my dominant hand gets me more consistent throws, but it does. I get even more consistent throws when I don't have you all watching through this camera on my chest. I'm so paranoid about throwing this camera out. I mean, accidents happen, but I don't want it to happen. That's gonna make for a bad day. And I ain't go, listen, water temp's 49 degrees, 11 feet deep here where we're at, but I wouldn't be going in after this camera either. It would suck to take the loss, but I'm too big a pansy to go in that cold water. I'm just gonna take the L. I'm getting used to taking the L the way it's felt the last few days, man. It's frustrating to go out, and I'd almost rather get skunked than have a day like where I caught the big fish 20 minutes in and then sit there all afternoon with nothing else. Like, I mean, I scrapped the video because, like, what do you do? I mean, I'm not going to subject you all to a 3, 4, 5 hour long video with one fish caught in the first 20 minutes. I'm not going to do that to you, but I'd just almost rather be skunked in that situation than be smacked in the face with only getting one fish. And some of my other recent trips, it's kind of been, you get 1 or 2 small fish, but nothing else. Like, I just haven't been on a good concentration of fish, I guess. Well, our gizzard shad seems to be getting a little lively there. You can see that line just, he's swimming. Oh, what's going on here? I think something's, I don't know what the hell's happened here. This line is, we've got a fish on this light tackle rod, folks, and we've somehow got our line. Boy, every day's a damn nightmare, folks, with tangles. Folks, this line is over here beside us. Y'all have had a fish on. He has swam all the way over here in front of us on the other side. He got tired of waiting on you to reel him in. He said, I'll just swim up here in front of the kayak. We finally got him. We finally got him figured out here. This was our cut bait on the jig head. Let's see what this is. It's a big enough fish to feel good on the light tackle for sure. I don't know what it is yet. I don't think it's a crappie. I'm betting either a catfish or a drum. I think he just got in our front line right there. He did. That damn fish, buddy. I look back, I'm like, what's going on here? And our line, he had swam all the way up here beside us without y'all paying attention. Y'all ain't very good fishing partners sometimes. I need y'all to be my eyes and ears in this operation. It'd be real helpful if you could get him out of this line here. He's all up in that one. He's all up in it, folks. We're just gonna have to deal with that tangle. Okay. It's a blue cat. Fish number 1's a blue cat, folks. Light tackle. Got him a piece of gizzard on a jig head. He's got that other rod. He's got that bait in the tail. Open up that mouth, would you? I got to be careful here too, because I don't want to end up. We got them other hooks right there from the other line. Let's bring him on in, because I don't know where all these hooks are at, and I ain't trying to get stuck today. Them other hooks are small, but I still don't want to wear them. I ain't trying to get no piercing like all these kids walking around the mall today. You been to the mall lately? What a dumpster fire those places have become. Them kids walking around, all them piercings and everything. All right, there goes our jig head. Where's the other hook at? I know it's in his tail. There it is. Blue Cat, you've caused all kinds of problems right off the bat. Announce your presence, Blue Cat. When you bite a bait, I need you to announce that you are on. You need to swim don't swim toward us. Swim away from us. That way we hear the drag pulling. There. All right, folks. Here we go. Blue Kitty. Somehow I had the line around my hand. All right. Hey, we ain't skunked, by gosh. It ain't the biggest fish. But you know what? It's a fish. We got us one. I don't think the tangle's going to end up being all that bad. Because he didn't really get wrapped up in the line. I done more wrapping on the line right then and there than the fish did to us. I held that thing up and it spun itself around just then. First fish on the smallest bait that we had out. That's interesting. And it was higher up in the water column. Also interesting. Don't know how high up this thing is running. But nevertheless, it was up in the water column. And I'll tell you this, folks, I've got videos on my channel of this. Now, I've taken the live scope off of this kayak, although I do still have it at home there. But this time of year in the winter, I have caught fish, catfish, that are up in the water column. They're higher up, almost on top of the schools of shad sometimes. And this jig head with the cut bait, it is going to be in those fish's face if we ever get it fully untangled here. I'd like to blame the fish for this, but I think this was me that got to this point with it. I made it worse when if we don't get it here directly, I'm going to just cut this thing and we'll start over. We can just snip the okay, I see what the problem is. There we go. There it is. Oh, hell, there's more of it. How do we get in these messes, folks? God almighty. You know what? Hell with it. Hell with it. We'll do this right here. Problem solved. Solving problems is what I do, folks. Now, let's put it back on. Sometimes it's just easier to cut your losses, folks, and that's what we just done there. We just snipped it, and we'll just retie this jig head on. It's one jig head. I'm going to get rid of that. We'll put a new piece of cut bait on. We'd done caught 5 more fish if y'all hadn't got that tangled up. If y'all would have seen that fish back there when he started swimming, you let him swim all the way up here, getting 2 lines. It's almost like you don't want to catch fish out here. I don't know who the hell goes fishing and don't want to catch fish. Every time I bring y'all out, though, some new tangle, some new adventure is going to happen every single time. All right. We'll go ahead. I had another, there it is. I was going to say I had another piece of this gizzard shad here that we'll just stick on there. Again, I'm going to throw this back here behind us right between our dragging baits, and once we get out into deeper water, it will be less likely to do any kind of tangling like that, because this will be running significantly higher and those will be down significantly lower. But in the short term, we're still back here kind of shallow. There we go. All right, we got it back down. Let's make sure this ain't tangled up. I think we're good on this one. Yeah, that one's fine. Now let's drop it back down. Yeah, 13 feet here. Lord Almighty, look what you can do. Okay, there it comes. I was going to say that rod right there was getting hung up, but it pulled through it, thankfully. Interesting, though, that the first fish comes on the light tackle and the jig head. Like I said, there's videos on my channel where I was playing with live scope and would find catfish on top of schools of shad. We always think of fish hanging out below the schools, but I would oftentimes see them at the sides and on top of. And there were times that I was able to hit them with artificial baits and trigger a bite. But that wasn't a consistent thing for me, and it was mostly in the winter, this time of year, that I would see that. Once you got on into spring and summer, I didn't see those fish being up very much. And I wasn't able to consistently do it enough to really have a great desire to stick with it. It's just, it's so much fun when you're seeing fish regularly and you're catching fish regularly. But boy, when you ain't, when you're just wandering around out here looking at that screen, it almost has the opposite effect. It makes it less fun than just being out on the water and just enjoying your day. So I've been torn on the electronics and whatnot. Some of my best trips have been on days where I don't even have electronics on, where I'm just anchoring down, sitting on a spot, and just waiting. Those are some of my best days. But there's still a part of me that's curious and wants to know what's going on under me, in front of me, around me. There's also the peer pressure of just having the latest and greatest technology, keep up with the Joneses. And so I want it all. That's what I'm getting at. I want it all. But right now, the live scope, I took it off. Once I moved, I took everything off of this kayak because I was switching to the Bonafide XTR. And I did that and didn't like the Bonafide XTR. So I decided to switch back to this kayak. And so everything I had taken off, I had to put back on here. And I just decided, I took the live scope off and I was like, I don't use it that much and I don't use it for what it's intended for. I was mostly using it for the map card and just like I would use my normal 2D graph here. And I'm like, why take up all that real estate of space there in the kayak with that giant screen and then add all the extra weight into the kayak? Because, live scope, you've got your larger screen, you've got your power box, black box they call it, like the processor for it. That weighs a few pounds. You got to have a separate battery for it. You got all them wires going everywhere. You got to have the transducer on the pole that you can spin around and be able to look and stuff. And so it adds a lot of gadgetry to your kayak, if you will, not just from the screen, but with everything that goes with it. And it adds weight as well. And so, but just by taking the live scope and the battery and processor and all that out of that front hatch, it's taken a lot of the weight out of the bow, which will hopefully help this thing do better in choppier, rougher water. That's been my biggest complaint with this kayak from the start, is having the bow mount motor and battery up there and all my gear. You get out there in choppy conditions, you end up taking water over the bow, which ends up in that front hatch, and it can lead to a bad day. I've had a couple real scary situations where I've gotten a lot of water in the bow before I could get to a safe place to get out on the bank. So, you know, it's just, and it's not the kayak's fault. This kayak wasn't designed to have a bow mount motor and a bunch of weight in the front hatch. It's on me. But nevertheless, it's still a bit scary. So by removing the live scope, it's took at least 20 pounds out of the front of the kayak there. And do I miss the live scope? No. And you might say, well, Justin, you ain't done no good on your recent fishing trips. Wouldn't it have been nice to have live scope? It wouldn't have made a bit of difference, folks. It wouldn't have, unless it was just a situation where I was actually seeing the fish like on top of the schools or something. Maybe then I could have targeted them. But otherwise, I mean, since I've gotten that live scope, and I had it for, I think, around 3 years now. Man, I've had a lot of crummy days with the live scope, the same as I've had without it. It really hasn't done anything for me other than just be a cool novelty thing, just to be able to kind of see how fish react to your bait, see how they look at it, sometimes how long it'll take them to bite it. You'll also see the fish come up that don't eat your bait. And that's neat in itself for a little while. There's a neat novelty thing. But after a while, it gets to the point like, yeah, you know, I've seen it, and they're either going to eat my bait or they're not. And I played around with it early on too. Like if a fish was coming up to my bait and he was hesitant, I would try doing stuff. I might take my rod and kind of raise the bait up, kind of pull it away. Sometimes I sit there and jiggle it. One time I sit there and just smack the rod tip, kind of give it a jolt down there. It didn't matter. Oh. We had one after our shad head. Something hit it. Going down. But it didn't matter what I did. If I moved that bait, if fish were hesitant, and you literally see them on the live scope swimming in circles around your bait down there. If they were hesitant, if I did anything to that bait, move it, jolt it, there he is. He got it then. He got it then. We're hooked up on our cut shad. Y'all finally got you one on this cut bait. I'm proud of you. You've been pulling that thing around now for damn near an hour. Well, it ain't been that long, I don't guess, because it's just now about an hour. And part of that time we spent flapping our gums and throwing the cast net. So he's going to pull now. He's hitting it and getting it back there. He's swooped, he just don't know it yet. I've got the kayak set here on cruise control, so it's going to compensate for the fish pulling us backwards and kind of keep us on that line. It really makes fishing easy. In my pedal kayak, if you're trolling like this and the fish hits, you're going to get spun back toward the fish. And the advantage to that is you get to go on a sleigh ride. That's fun. Get towed around. The downside is if you've got a second line out, you end up oftentimes wrapped up in it because you'll end up kind of spun in a circle. Easier to fish. I wouldn't want to do, I tried in the past, pedal kayaks, dragging two and suspending two, but it's better for me to just, if I'm gonna pedal, just drag or just suspend. Hard to do both and not end up in a mess at some point. We about got this one up here now. He been a nice fight for his size. I think he may end up being smaller than the one we got on the light tackle rod though. He fought good for his size though. That's a good sign that they're active and aggressive. This one here, I think we don't even gonna have to get hold of him, folks. He looks like he is just flesh hooked. There we go. We'll see you, fish. Got a quick release on him. I've also got my fancy de-hooker tool that we can put on today, put it to use as well. Do the same thing, buddy. We'll take one of these shad, about half of him, and stick him on there. Under the gill plates, out between the eyes. Back out it goes. You know what would be interesting? It may end up being the dumbest thing ever. What if we did a you know what? Let's let this line out. You know what y'all have got going on here? Once again, you didn't pay attention to. You've got another fish on this rod back here, on your light tackle rod. Well, I thought you did. I think you come off. Well, it sure seemed like y'all had a fish you wasn't paying attention to. I'm gonna give y'all a pass on that one because I can't confirm for sure that y'all had a fish on. Either way, he's gone now. I need y'all keep an eye on that rod. Don't let me down today, folks. I'm counting on you. All right, let's get this one here, get it back out. But what I was gonna say, it would be interesting. Let's say we downsized our hooks, right? Let's say we're using them 1/0 size hooks right there. But we've got it on a dragging rig, just a downsized version. Like lighter action rod, lighter action line, or lighter pound line, smaller pieces of cut bait. That would be interesting. I'm almost tempted to do it just for the fun factor of it. I'm very tempted on that, folks. We may play around with that a little bit. Yeah, I'm talking like the size of the bait that we put on that jig head. Just a sliver. But do that on a dragging setup. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see what we would get from it. Would we get more fish? Would we get... I don't know. I mean, would a big fish just smash that tiny bait? You would think smaller fish probably would, but... And then, since you're using the smaller bait, would you get bycatches? Drum and various species of bass and things like that. Would that happen? All right. Put that back in the holder. Continue making our way. We're 15 feet deep now. We'll get us steer and I'm just basically, we're kind of going down the center of the old creek channel. I'll show you here on the map. You can kind of see there's We allegedly come across an old submerged bridge. If it was there, it's long gone. But you can kind of see we're in the middle of the old creek channel here. And I want to keep us down in that old channel. I'm not really following any specific contour. I'm just trying to keep us between the contours, really, as we work our way out of this creek. Now, fish, when they come up in these creeks like this, they could be anywhere. They could be out here. They could be up on the shoreline. They're going to spread out when they come in these creeks. This is the type of place that and I hate them planer boards with a passion. I can't stand them. It's the least fun way to catch a fish ever. But creeks like this are a good prime place for planer boards because of the fact that fish could be anywhere. They spread out. And if you can spread your baits out, I mean, a good planer board fisherman could cover this whole stretch here. And you're going to be more likely to catch fish by being able to spread your baits out. But I got a feeling that we can work right down the center here with these fish with the bait fish anyway, being stacked in the back of this. I think we're more likely to catch fish just coming right down the center of this channel all the way to the back of this thing versus them venturing up on, because, you know, we were seeing shad flipping everywhere back there in the very back. But as we've made our way out, I mean, I'm looking around, I'm looking at the shorelines and stuff. I'm not seeing a lot of flips, a lot of shad activity along the shoreline, around the docks and stuff. There's undoubtedly some over there, but it don't seem like they're in as good of numbers, as good a concentration as what they were in the back. Because, I mean, we were getting, even with our lousy throws, we were still getting some shad. And of course I'm using too, I mean, I'm using a 6-foot net, which is a pretty small net when you think about it. I mean, most of the bait dealers and whatnot, they're using at least 10 foot. Personally, I just find 6 foot to be a good size to throw from a kayak with my height and, you know, the limited space here in the kayak and stuff. Like, I find a 6-foot net to be ideal. It's big enough that I can still catch bait, but it's small enough that it's manageable. I can do a very simple technique to throw it with, which I've got an old video on my channel. It's 7 or 8 years old, showing how I throw, how I load the net and how I throw it. So if you're interested in learning that, but I recommend if you're trying to learn how to throw a cast net, I mean, obviously watch my video, hopefully it'll be helpful to you, but I would watch a bunch of videos and watch a bunch of different techniques and try them all. Like, watch a video, get out in your backyard and throw the net and see which method is better for you. Because there's a lot of different ways to throw a net. And there's not a right or wrong way to do it. The right way to do it is the way that works for you. And the only way to know what's going to work for you is to get out there and try. And personally, I tried a bunch of different ways. I've had people show me in person how to do it. I've watched videos on how to do it. And it took me finding the technique that I currently use, and I don't remember where I found it at. It was a video. But it took me finding that before I got to where I could throw consistently and be able to do it both right and left-handed. Although, again, I do get better, more consistent throws throwing right-handed than left. But I wanted to be able to do both because there are times in a kayak or you're trying to throw on windy days where your boat control, kayak control becomes an issue. And so you kind of have to work you have to maybe throw a certain direction if the shad are a certain place in relation to the way the wind's blowing, blah, 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 details you don't care about. But bottom line is there are going to be times you may have to throw left-handed. Because, I mean, if you're in a boat and you've got a nice big stable platform, you can either throw off the left side of the boat or turn your body around and throw off the right side of the boat. With a kayak, I can stand up. This kayak's plenty stable enough for me to stand up in, but I'm not going to be able to just turn around, stand sideways in this thing, throw off the other side. Like, I can't do that. That'd be a flirting with disaster type thing of falling out trying that, which might make for a better video, but I ain't trying to do it. So it's good. It's good to be able to throw with either arm just for those type of days. But most days you come out, you're going to be able to throw off whichever side is most convenient for you and be able to get the kayak lined up and positioned in such a way that you can. It's really it's mainly just the windy, super windy days that's going to happen. Like, I might throw a net left-handed once a year on average. Most of the time I can do how I want to do it. But I mean, it is a skill, and most people, they got to practice a little bit to get good at that skill. Not necessarily, I ain't talking about finding shad. Finding shad's pretty easy, but the actual skill of throwing the net, it takes a little practice. But once you get it down, it can be an easy way to get you bait. These backwater creek systems, I mean, most of the time I throw a net, I'm throwing 3 foot of water or less most of the time. Oftentimes in these creeks, you will visually see the shad, like we did today. I mean, we could see them flipping back there, and you just throw on top of them where they're at. Other times, you may not see them. You may not actually see the fish, but you'll get back there and throw, and there they'll be. But finding the shads, I mean, if you just stick with the backwaters, or if you've got boat ramps or a public park that's got lights on at night, them shad will be up there near the light. Bridges and stuff that's got algae growing on them, those will typically hold some shad around because the shad will be there eating on the stuff growing on the bridge. So you can usually keep yourself in business with shad. Now, depending on the size of the shad that you want, that will determine the size of the mesh diameter. When you buy these nets, you'll go into the store and they'll be listed like, it'll say 6 foot, and then it'll have your mesh diameter. The net I'm using today is 3/8. And that's good for getting your small, like threadfin shad, for instance. You're going to be able to get those in the net. Your larger size mesh diameter, you throw over some tiny thread fins, they're going to get out in the net. You can still catch the bigger fish, but the smaller fish will get, and you might say, well, Justin, why would you want that? Well, what happens is when you throw a net like I've got, the 3/8, and you throw it over some threadfin shad that are kind of in between, like they're too big to be able to swim through the mesh, but they're not big enough to be completely contained inside it. What happens is they get stuck in it. And you end up having to kind of fling out or pick out a bunch of shad. So if you're only wanting large gizzard shad and you don't care nothing about the thread fins, well, you don't need a 3/8 inch net, because then you're just going to be picking out small shad all the time. It's going to cost you time. But if you do want thread fin, oh, fish, oh, he hit it. He tugged on it. See if he'll come back for it. I think he's still there near it. I think he's back after it, folks. He's either after it, messing with it, or we're coming across something. It was a nice, he pulled it hard. It was a nice takedown. I felt him kayak moving, but he let it go. I'm gonna just, he's after it again, folks. He's chewing that thing up down there. He seemed to have moved on. We'll let it run just a few more minutes here and we'll reel it in. I don't want to reel it in right now, but we probably need to check that bait because it got hit hard once. He just tugged on it again, and the shad, they're a little, I mean, they're, that one there especially is a little bit thinner, going to be more likely to get torn off, either torn off the hook completely or tear the meat off of the head, and you'll just have gill flaps on down there. Yeah, let's just go ahead and reel it in, just take a look, just to be safe. With us having that big bait on the other side over there, I really want this bait. I want it in good condition, and I want to make sure we've got a bait on at all times. Oh, it's on. Actually looks pretty good. Let's go ahead. We got it up here now. Let's just go ahead and switch it out though. We got all these shad down here. We might as well just keep everything super fresh. Get hold of it. Cut that tail off. All right. But yeah, your mesh diameter, if you want threadfin shad, you definitely don't want to get a one with a big diameter, because you'll never keep them in there. They'll just swim right out when you throw over the top of them. The other thing you got to consider is the weight of the net. A lot of your cheaper nets, not only will they be inferior quality as far as the material itself, you throw over a stump or a rock or something, you're going to tear your net on the real cheap ones. But you'll also have these nets that don't have hardly any weight to them. When I'm throwing shallow like I normally do most of the time, I mean seriously, probably 95% of my throws are in water 5 feet or less. Probably 99% of my throws are in water 5 feet or less. So I want something that as soon as that net hits the water, those fish, those shad are going to scatter, right? They just got spooked. I want something that's going to fall fast and get down right on top of them. So I want at least 1 pound per foot on my net. And that's something you'll see. It'll be part of the package there of the cast net. It'll tell you. It should, most of the time it'll say on the package like half a pound per foot or 1 pound per foot or some formulation of that, some combination of that. But I like at least 1 pound. 1 pound, 6 foot net, 3/8 inch mesh. That'll catch my small shad, my big shad. It's big enough that I can get bait pretty easily, but not so big that it's unmanageable in a kayak. There's still days, don't get me wrong, there's still days you go out and you just can't find any shad. They just ain't there, you ain't seeing no life. Maybe they're deep. And it's just, you're just not gonna get them. But most of the time, of the days I go out trying to net shad, I would say I probably get them easily 9 out of 10 times I'm gonna get shad. So it's a pretty reliable bait source. But I do find it to be a better bait for me in the winter. I will catch fish on it in the summer, but as far as better quality fish goes, I normally get them in the water that's 50 degrees and under on the shad. All right, I'm gonna flip the bail back over there on that back rod. All right, we're out to 17 feet deep now. Not a lot of catfish action going on back there in the shallows right now. That's all right. We're gonna keep making our way out. We'll find them eventually, and if we don't find them here in the creek, when we get out to the main channel, we'll just turn up the ledge and start going up it. I don't suspect these these cats are back here feeding. They're not going to stay back here. They're going to be coming in here, eating, and going back out. And what we want to do is catch them on their way in and out of here today. Now, oftentimes you see me set up at creek mouths. The last video we was set up at a creek mouth. We did okay. We got some fish. But the last few days, like I said, I've fished shallow, I've fished deep. I've hit a couple more creek mouths, and just suspending baits and anchoring and casting baits out, it just hasn't been panning out. And I feel like I need to be moving right now. I feel like we need to get on the move. And so that's why we're kind of mixing things up today, doing what we're doing. Plus, too, I have got to sell y'all a battery up here too. I gotta prostitute myself, I guess, sing for my supper up here on one of these batteries. I took 2 batteries, folks, 36 volt batteries. For when I had that Bonafide kayak, I got the power pole motor for it there, 36 volt motor. And I bought a battery for it, a reputable brand. And I was like, I get these emails in my inbox every day, these battery companies wanting to send you. That's just part of doing YouTube. All these companies want to get on your videos and stuff, and they'll offer you free product in exchange for putting it on video. Well, I was like, it'd be nice to have a couple backup batteries. That way, when I go on a road trip somewhere, I wouldn't have to lug a battery in to charge it. I could just, one battery dies, I take it out and put the next one in. So I did a couple deals with battery companies. And I got 2 36 volt batteries, 1 battery from each different company. Well, problem is, I sold that Bonafide kayak and the motor because it just wasn't working out for me. It didn't end up in real life how I worked it out in my head. Fish. Oh, he nailed it. Y'all lost another. I've never lost a fish in my life, but now you've missed the last 2 fish. Hit that thing and not stayed with it. I wish he'd just bury that thing. But anyhow, I took these batteries and I took on an obligation to feature those batteries on my channel. And then I ended up getting rid of the kayak and that motor, right? So I was like, well, now I'm in a pickle. So I was like, well, if I'm coming back to this kayak and using this 12 volt motor, I got to get me some new 12 volt batteries, because the batteries I've been using they just wasn't holding a charge anymore. And they were name brand, reputable companies, but they just wasn't holding a charge anymore. Like, I'm getting a fraction of the runtime that I'd used to get. It's incredibly frustrating. So I was like, well, I'm going to buy a couple of new batteries. So I'm just like, I'll buy batteries from the companies that sent me the 36 volt batteries. And then I can do my song and dance here for the 12 volt battery that I bought instead of the 36 volt battery that was given to me for featuring it on the channel or whatever. So I did that. I bought a Lifetime battery, which I talked about in a video before I went to Florida. I got that one done. And then I got one from EnjoyBot, which is in the front hatch today. And so I got to do a spiel on it at some point. They don't let me forget to do that before we leave here today, y'all. I've got to get that done. I was supposed to have it done a long time ago. Yeah, folks, I'm at a point with these lithium batteries where I'm not buying the expensive brands anymore. Because I'm convinced the expensive brands and the off brands are made in the same factory with a different label for a fraction of the cost. These batteries, man, and I know, listen, they all got a 10-year warranty, right? Hell, the batteries that I've got in my shed right now that don't hold a charge, they've got 10-year warranty. But here's the thing. Companies ain't going to take your word for it that your battery ain't holding a charge. They're going to want to inspect them, which means you got to ship it back to the company. Now, you drop that battery off at the UPS store, they're going to say, too big. We don't do this. We don't send batteries this big from our store. UPS and FedEx, they can handle those larger lithium batteries, no problem. But the UPS store, the FedEx drop-off locations, they will not accept them if they have not been through, if their store or office hasn't been through the hazmat process, certification, whatever, that's required to accept batteries of that size, then they will not take them. And my local stores, they have not been through that. So you can't even drop them off there. But even if you do, you find a place to take it, you fill out all your hazmat form, blah, 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 blah. You go to ship it, a battery, fairly large box, 20-something pounds. You got to ship it most of the time out west, somewhere out in California. Man, it's going to cost you over $100 to ship that battery. Then you get it to the company. They inspect it. Okay, it's eligible for warranty replacement. Great. Who's going to pay to ship the next battery to you? Is the company going to do that? Or is that on you? It don't say. You look at all these battery companies' websites. They'll all say 10-year warranty. It don't say who's paying shipping to get the old battery back and who's paying shipping to get the new battery to you if you have a warranty problem. So if you end up having to pay shipping both ways, you're on the hook for about $200 or so for your warranty. Well, guess what? If you buy one of these off-brand batteries, which again, I'm convinced is the same batteries that you're getting from the name brands, just in a different casing, you can get a brand new battery for $200 because they've come down in price so much. So I'm at a point now, like, I'm not buying any more name brand batteries. I'm just going to buy these cheap ones for a couple $100. 2 or 3 years from now, when they're not holding a charge, I'll replace them. I wouldn't be surprised if 3 years from now, batteries that are $200 today are probably $100. Because these batteries that are $200 today, 3 years ago, they were $500 and $600. Prices have just keep coming down. And all these battery companies, yeah, they offer you a 10-year warranty. Are you confident any of them are going to be in business 10 years from now? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, the fact I had 2 different batteries both crap out within about 3 years, that tells me that most of these batteries are probably crapping out in 2 to 3 years. And if I know that, I bet you these companies know that too. And so these little random companies that are selling these things on the cheap, would you be shocked at all if they were in business 2 or 3 years, sold as much as they possibly could at low prices, and then just went out of business, opened up under a different name, so they didn't have to start honoring warranty claims when they started crapping out? I mean, I wouldn't be, I'm a bit of a pessimist. I'm a little bit negative. I'm a negative Nelly. So maybe my outlook's different than a lot of people's, but I wouldn't be shocked, and I don't think you would be shocked either if that happened. So I'm just not doing it anymore, and I'm not whoring myself out to any more battery companies either. I don't like doing this stuff. I just want to go fishing. If it's something I want, like I've done a lot of electric bike things, but I like electric bikes. They're fun. And they're a pretty big ticket item. So when I'm done with it, I've got 2 bikes. I've got one for me and one for my girlfriend. The other bikes, and I've gotten like 20 something of them, I just turn around and sell them. And I've sold them anywhere from $600 to $1,000, depending on the retail price of them. So it's a nice little racket. I get a free bike for putting it on video. I get a nice profit from it when I'm done with it, and it's fun in the process, like going out and chasing Daphne around the yard on a bike. That's fun. That's something that, hell, we do that. We do that even when we don't have a bike to sell, because I do keep 2 of them. But other stuff, you know, these, like the batteries here, my inbox is always full of like solar charge or generators, solar generator things. I get one a day at least of those things. I just don't want to do that stuff. I've done some other ads in the past too, Manscaped and Bravo Sierra and Keeps hair loss things, and those are obviously the products I'm not really interested in. The Ridge Wallet, I do like the Ridge Wallet though. That was one thing I did an ad for, and I still have my Ridge Wallet there, folks. I love that thing. I'm not trying to sell you a Ridge Wallet out here today, but I'm just saying, I did that ad. They sent me some Ridge Wallets. I'm like, man, I really like these things. This is great. But otherwise, I mean, I don't really care about doing this stuff. I really just want to. The best deal I've ever had is with Catfish Sumo, because they don't require anything of me. I don't have to hashtag. I don't have to make social media posts. I don't have to plug them in videos. They're just like, just use our gear. And I'm like, well, I already like your gear. I'm going to use it anyway. I'm like, well, good. Just keep doing that. Like, that's how it ought to be. But when it comes to stuff like deodorant and ball hair trimmers, you can't just, I mean, I guess you could use that on a fishing video, but that video is going to take a turn. It's going to be a rated R. But fishing products, pretty easy for me to just work right in, because I'm already using stuff anyway. I did message Daniel, their owner of Catfish Sumo. And I told him, I was like, Daniel, you ought to be selling, oh, here it is. I told him, I said, Daniel, you ought to be selling these things. I got this one on Amazon. That fishing guy down there in Florida put me on these things. He taught me how to use it. It's a fish dehooker. We'll probably use it on smaller fish today at some point. But it makes getting them dinks undone so much easier. I told Daniel, I'm like, nobody in the catfish world's using them things, which is crazy. They're such a good tool, but my guess is probably nobody knows how to use them. I sure as hell didn't, till that fishing guy down there in Florida showed me. They use them on them hardhead catfish, them saltwater cats. that's got venom or poison or whatever in their spines, they obviously don't want to handle them things. They don't want to get stuck by them. So they use that fish dehooking tool so they don't have to handle the fish at all. I'm like, I could use that on the dink blues at home that won't open their mouth. Because you know how some of these blue cats are. They'll clamp down their mouth and you can't hardly get the hook out. Super easy with that thing. I do think these things are expensive for what they are, though. I mean, it's just a wire. Well, it's a stiffer piece of metal, I guess. Looks like a wire with a handle. This is like $13.99, I think it was. Helpful tool, but kind of pricey for what it is. I think they could be made. It seems like it ought to be a $5 product. Y'all gonna hear some construction noise. They got something over here. A barge over here at this dock loading something up. They'll probably turn around and come right back out here in a minute too when we're up here in their way. Got this marina over here. I see a few birds on the other side of that marina. Maybe some thread fins over there possibly. I don't know if having thread fins would have improved our calls at all as far as, getting more action. But I'd rather have those and have them on live than the pieces of cut bait on there. Because we already got the cut bait out with our other rigs. I'd like to have some live thread fin on that rod, and I'd like to have them on that jig head behind us. If we see some thread fin going up through here, I may go ahead and make a throw. Lord knows we got plenty of gizzards though. And these size baits here, I mean, they're a good size. They're big enough you can chunk them, use a head and midsection, or they're good enough you can do like we're doing on that other rod over there and just cut a tail off and use the rest of it. We still got them two. Them two right there, they're still alive in that bucket. We're an hour and a half in. They're still doing okay. Shad are a finicky species. You can see on the water there, the film. When they get stressed, they start shedding their slime and their scales. And so all that film on there, like that's their slime. And that'll change the pH of the water. And then one of them will ultimately die. And that'll change the pH of the water, and they'll all start dying on you. So if you're going to keep shad alive for any length of time, you need a tank that's got some filtration. You need to be able to either filter out all of that slime or have a setup where you're bringing in fresh water constantly. Like I've got a tank at my house. I say a tank, it's a bucket. It's a 5-gallon bucket, but it's got a bilge pump on it. And the bilge pump brings in water, like you set it off the side of the kayak, and it brings in water to the bucket. And then you've got a hole at the top with a hose that the excess water goes out of. So the bilge pump brings fresh water from the lake or river into the bucket. And as it brings the new water in, up near the top, the old water goes out the spout there that you've built on it. It does require a battery, of course, to run the bilge pump, and you've got the bilge pump hanging off the side and your other hose off the other side, but it will keep shad alive in a smaller container in a kayak. Now, out here in the winter months when water temps are cold, not as big a deal. But in the summer months, if it's hot, your bait's going to have a much harder time. They're going to stress quicker, they're going to die quicker. So it's better to go ahead and take that bucket out there then. Or, you know, rig up something where you can keep them off to the side of your kayak in the water. It's just if you're going to be making a run somewhere and you got one of them flow trolls or whatever, Fraybill flow trolls, if you got a bunch of shad in that thing and you pick it up and put it inside the kayak while you run to a different spot, because you don't want to, you can't troll that thing very quickly. If you're moving like we're doing today, it'd be fine. But like if you're trying to hoof it to the next spot, that flow troll is going to be slowing you down probably over 1 mile an hour. You're going to lose 1 mile an hour or more in speed with one of them things. You're going to have to put it inside the kayak, and you're going to have all them shad in that small container. And it's just, if you're making a 3-minute run somewhere, not a big deal. If you're making a 30-minute run, they're probably going to die. But I don't usually use shad in the summer months. If I'm going to use them, most of the time it's winter, early spring. So it's not a big deal for me. I can't honestly remember the last time I even used that bucket with the bilge pump. I can't remember. It's been a few years probably. Works good for what it is. It's simple to make. It's cheap to make. But you do got to have a battery to power it with, which is something extra to carry, and you got to sit there and listen to it. Got to listen to the bilge pump run and the water pour out of it. And stuff like that just, it annoys me. That's the best thing I can say. It annoys me. I don't know why it does, but it does. I'm going to lower this down a little bit. We're 20 feet of water now. I think, too, I'm going to let out a little bit more line now on our jig head here, too. Get a little bit more distance between us and it. I do think we would be doing better on that jig head if we had a live thread fin on it. We could have put, I mean, when we netted these gizzards, they were obviously alive. We could have probably stuck one of them on there, but I think we would have had to switch out a hook, something a little bigger. We could have maybe put them on this rod, the lighter tackle rod here. They're just bigger than what I wanted today. It just depends. I mean, sometimes you come into a creek and you find nothing but thread fins. Other times you come into a creek, you be netting almost exclusively gizzards. It's just weird like that. If you find the creeks with the thread fin though, that's usually where your skipjack are going to be. And skipjack love the thread fin. So if you've got a large population of thread fins in a particular creek, keep that in mind, because you're probably, if you have skipjack on your body of water, they're probably going to be near them. I don't think I've ever tried to catch skipjack here before. But undoubtedly, there's probably some in here. But I was getting them the other day, way back in the creek, had water actively flowing into it. We may end up putting on skipjack here in a little while. Oh, this rod. Our light tackle rod just got thumped. I felt it. There it goes. There it goes. I felt him hit it. He's a hitting and a getting it, ain't he? Small blue. It's a bite though, man. Like I said, lately, even getting a bite's been tough at times. You fish just ain't been real cooperative toward me lately. Blue kitties, I don't know why you don't want to play with me lately. He says he never wants to play with me. Should have used our fish dehooker here. And got it out now with the pliers. Look at how fat he is for his size. You can tell he's been eating good. He's all belly. All right, let's switch this out. Put us on a couple fresh pieces there and drop it back down. Might as well, we got it here, so might as well just go ahead and keep it fresh. It's good enough. I mean, that bait that was on there was good enough. We didn't have to switch it out, but it's like, if we got it, why not? It's going to do the same thing I've done before, though, just small slivers. We want combination out there today. We want the biggest baits, like our big gizzard shad that's hopefully still alive on that hook. We want tiny baits that we've got right here and on our jig head, and we got an in between on the other rod. But out here now where we're at, with 20 feet of depth, I would suspect that our suspended bait here is probably going to start getting a little bit more attention. Just because of the depth, we're not going to be coming right over the top of these fish as noticeably. It is fun, man, on that lighter tackle rod. I've said, the lighter tackle rod, it's fun catching fish that size, because, I mean, they're going to be able to put a bend in it. Unlike my heavier rods, you get a 1 pound fish. It's not really, I mean, catching fish is fun, but it's not the same experience as if you're catching a fish on a tackle of appropriate size. That's why I'm interested in, if we took that rod right there and made a just downsized dragging rig. I'm intrigued by it. We're probably going to end up trying that at some point, folks. I'm intrigued by it. Maybe the dumbest thing we've done. May not try it today. I'm gonna have to rig something up. I've got some shiner hooks that I was using. I think they're in the last video when I was fishing out of the links. And I had rigged up a double hook rig with them shiner hooks. They could use those. Because even the smaller cats should be able to get those okay. Them 1/0 size hooks right there, I worry about them. If you hook into something, 50+ pound caliber fish, the thinner diameter, the wire gauge, will be able to penetrate. That won't be the issue. What I do worry about, though, is the gap between the hook point and the shank of the hook. I worry about that not being wide enough on a 50+ pound fish. It ain't the size of the hook, it ain't the diameter. Like, we can use our drag and take our time, play the fish out. But I do worry about it just not getting properly set. Because sometimes you hook a big cat and you'll get that hook, it'll hook them on like the top of the mouth, but they'll be behind that bony plate. And the smaller gap there on them small hooks, they're just not wide enough to get back there. So you're going to have to bury that thing into the bony plate, which is doable. I've caught fish like that. But it's going to be more likely to bend the hook out in that situation. So just one of them things. Pros and cons. We'll have to play with it and see. But you know, that fella Catching Dinosaurs YouTube channel, Henry, he catches alligator gar, which are 6-8 foot long and well over 100 pounds oftentimes. He uses tiny hooks for them. Now, granted, it's a different kind of fish, whatnot, but still, he's using like #1 size hooks. I've watched videos of him doing it. And of course, he says it's better for the fish because them gar, they got all them teeth and that hard mouth. You apparently have to let them eat the bait a little while. That way it's farther down their gullet, then set the hook. And so the smaller hook does less damage. But at the end of the day, it's still a really small hook against a massive size fish, and he gets them in no problems with it. So I don't think it's the size of the hook that really matters so much. It's more as is the technique, using your drag appropriately, and just being smart about it. If you've got a light line, or if you've got a thinner diameter or thinner wire hook, don't crank down your drag and try to horse that fish in. You're gonna break your line, or you're gonna bend the hook out. You gotta play your drag. You gotta play the fish out a little more. And I think as cat fishermen, using the heavier leaders and bigger hooks, you just lock your drag down and manhandle them, which is fine. You can do that, but if you are going to try lighter tackle or smaller hooks, you're going to have to change the way you do things, or else you're going to have problems. I wonder if our shad over here is still alive. I'm not seeing him. You know, our line there for a little while was dancing around and stuff as he would try to swim. It ain't really. Only movement on there now is just that sinker running across the bottom. I'm getting a little resistance as it goes over. Kind of tempted to reel him in. If he's kicked the bucket, we may put on a piece of skipjack. Let's check him and see, because he's been on there a while and he ain't really moving around. He ain't fighting me right now as I'm reeling him in. Watch the damn thing be going or something. I know he ain't been hit. No, he's still on there. He's still alive. He's swimming along. What do you think? You want to switch him out? He's still alive. I think we send him back out. That's a good size bait. It's a good hand size bait. He's wiggling that tail and just swimming along. I think that's our play. I've just got, I know y'all hear me talk about skipjack all the time, how much I love them, but this time of year, I have so much confidence in gizzard shad. Now we do have gizzard shad on every rod. We can make that argument that it's be nice to have some variety out. You know what? Let's do that. Let's put variety out, because we've pulled this gizzard shad now for almost 2 hours, and he ain't done nothing for it. Let's try a skipjack head. We'll save him. Throw him down there. We'll save him because we'll definitely use him at some point. If not, I'll take him with me today. Let's put us a skipjack head on. I don't know what happened to our cutting board. There it is. I've been using the floor of the kayak here, getting it good and nasty. We'll use the cutting board on this skipjack because they're pretty bloody fish. Put us a big head bait on. Wintertime, I mean, I usually do better with smaller baits, but we've got plenty of small baits out, so we'll use a big skipjack head here. It'll either catch us something or it won't. Okay, there we go. Big head going out. Let out some line on that while we put this up. All right. I gotta fix them floorboards back too. Them, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of off the top of my head. The padding, floor padding, whatever them things are called. They're curling up right there. They've come loose. I gotta fix some things back at some point in the spring. Glue them back down. Y'all add that on my to-do list. Y'all, I swear y'all keep me full of stuff to do. Work me like a damn dog. Every one of you. All right. I'm gonna get us going back this direction. We're veering up a little bit here to the left while I wasn't paying attention. Oh, oh, oh. Something tapped me. A little love tap, a little nip, a little nipply. I was looking around over there where them birds were flying. I ain't seeing nothing on the surface there. No ripples or nothing. Maybe way off over there on the other side of the marina, but I ain't really seeing. Ain't really seeing much to be throwing on as far as the thread fins go. All right, let's flip that bail over. All right, we pulling a skipjack head now. We've got the ultimate variety out now, folks. Multiple species of baits, multiple cuts of baits, multiple sizes of baits. These fish ain't got no excuses now. Uh-oh. Something tugged on it, didn't it? You know it's a small fish when they can't get that bait and hook. I do think I will throw, though, if we come across any. Surely to goodness we're going to see some threadfins somewhere out here. Look over there. Look over there, all them birds over there now. That may be where the threadfins are at. I don't know what percentage of diet of those birds are made up by shad, but they're always on the water, so it must be a very high percentage. I actually just seen some little ripples right up here to our right. I wonder what those are. Am I imagining that? I'm going to stand up here a second. I stand up now, I don't see them. I was going to say, if them were like little ripples, we could veer off to the right here and then try to throw that net like between the motor and the rod. If we throw it though, I want to make sure we're getting what we want here. Go through the hassle of it. Yeah, I don't see them now. Oh well. Probably just my imagination. Normally if you see thread fins, they're up and just all over. Like just popping the surface when they're up. Now I've seen the graph here. I ain't really been seeing, we've not come across any big schools of them. Sometimes them schools of threadfin are deeper, like you'll come across them on your graph and you'll see them. I haven't seen anything like that as we've come out through here. No, little, right there. You see that right there? Right there. What is that? I don't know what the hell them are. It's just barely little something hitting the surface right there. I'm kind of wanting to throw, y'all, it would be a waste of time to do that, but I kind of want to just throw on that and just see what the hell it is. I keep seeing it right there. If I go over there though, I'm going to have to reset everything when we're done. It'd be nice if we could find whatever that is, like right here. And I wouldn't have to reset it all. I don't see it now. Who knows what it is? Even if it is threadfin, it may not be enough to be worthwhile to throw on. I do think I will maybe do this though. Let's veer off a little bit to the right here. Look at that bird right there. He's going down there and getting something, trying to. Let's veer off a little bit to the right here. We head this way. If we see it again, maybe it'll be on toward the left side and we'll be able to try it. I see a couple birds. I think it's some loons over here. They're obviously a sign of wildlife that you can look for when looking for bait too. Because that's sometimes you're not going to see shad flipping on the water surface like we did there earlier. Right? Like you're just not going to see that kind of activity depending on water conditions, how active the shad are. If it's a windy day and a little bit choppy, you're not going to see them even if they are. But you can look for signs from nature, whether it's them white birds, whatever they are, flying around, swooping down, eating shad. They're not doing that for no reason. They'll tell you there's bait there. Sometimes you'll see herons lined up on the shoreline. Other times you'll see them loons, I think they're called. I don't know the official name for them. We call them loons. They'll be swimming around and they'll dive down under the water and chase shad, get shad and stuff. If they're doing that, that's a good sign to you that there are some shad over there, right? Like they're not just swimming around over there just for the hell of it. It's because there's some food for them. So if you just keep your eyes open, you can usually find the bait. Or some form of bait. May not be the bait you want. Like if you want skipjack, you may not be able to find those on a particular day. But if you just leave your house with a couple bait rods and a cast net and are willing to take whatever, you're going to get something. I ain't really seeing nothing now. I'm just standing up looking here. There is a little bit of ripple on the water right now. The wind's blowing very lightly, but it's blowing just enough to put that little ripple and make things difficult to see. I think I'm gonna sit back down and we're gonna lower this rod down a little bit. We're 22 feet now. Just keep slowly but surely dropping our way off to deeper and deeper water. Like I said, it'll be about 40 feet, give or take, out here. It's with the water level down for winter drawdown. I don't know exactly how deep it will be out here at the entrance of it, but based on what I've seen in this creek thus far, with the small fish that we've gotten and not many of them, I think me and you are probably just going to work our way out to the channel here. There's no sense in, I thought if we got on them, like if we were finding fish really concentrated in any one part of this creek, we'd just turn around and keep going up and down, keep hitting it. But to this point, it's just kind of been straggler fish, really. One here, one there, it's not like they've been at like a certain depth that they've been locked into or a big school or anything. Like we've not had every rod getting hit type thing. And again, you would think this time of year, there would be a big concentration of fish schooled up somewhere, and they probably have been. They've just not been where I've been. That's the thing. It's like you got to be where they are. You can have the best gear, the best bait, the best boat, best kayak. If you ain't where the fish are at, you ain't going to catch nothing. And last few days I've been out, I ain't been where the fish are at. I've just been, whatever my thought process was for that particular day, it's been wrong. Sometimes I do think you can overthink fishing too. Like, you can overanalyze and rationalize every move, everything a fish should be doing, but ultimately a fish should be doing whatever the hell it is doing. And I'm not a fish. I can't put myself in its place. And me trying to sit here and be like, well, if I was a fish, I would do, or if I was a fish, I would be here. You can't do that because we're not fish. And so we can't see things from their point of view, their perspective. All we can do is take our experience from catching fish and various times of year and water conditions, weather conditions, et cetera, and then try to piece it all together, take the result, and then try to work backwards to figure out, like, why was they here? Why were they doing that? And you can make a compelling case. You catch fish doing something a certain way, you got the results. You can put whatever story you want on it. But I don't know necessarily that we're always right. We may think we are. Because, I mean, there's times, I mean, you can replicate a bite. I've replicated a bite a bunch. Like, man, if you find fish on, let's say you find fish on a point 40 feet deep, chances are that bite's going on all up and down the river in similar locations. Now, why that bite's going on, that's where it gets tricky as far as us putting the details as to why. Like, we're inventing those details of why fish are doing what they're doing when they're doing it. We don't really know. And that's why I think maybe sometimes you can overthink things. I think there's, God almighty, there's a beeping going on over there at that marina. It's not very loud. You all may not hear it at all with the fancy pants microphone, but it's just noticeable enough it's going to drive me insane. I hope they get that crap turned off in a minute. Ugh. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at, it's good to be thinking about things and definitely look for patterns. It's really better if you're brand new fishing to keep a journal and take notes. And so if you get on fish today, write down weather conditions, water conditions, time of year, location, all that stuff, and then try to replicate that in the future if those situations and conditions arise again. That's good to do. But as far as trying to think about why that bite happened, I don't know if that's a good use of your mental time. I think there's some power into keeping things simple, finding something that you like doing and just going out and doing it. That's why you see me suspending baits so much. It works. It's fun. And it works often enough that, yeah, I mean, sure, you're going to go out and you're going to have some I've had a bad week here. I've struggled this week. But it's, over the course of time, going to balance itself out. And if you just stick with it, I could go out and not think at all. Just go out and anchor down in various creek mouths and points and along ledges and be able to catch some fish over the course of the year. It's not going to happen every day. And I think most of us want, and I can speak for myself on this, I want to be consistent. I want to be able to go out and get results every day of the week. That's what I want. And it ain't, I mean, I want big fish, obviously. Who doesn't? But it ain't even about big fish. I just want to get results every day I leave the house. And that's, I think, why I personally end up overanalyzing things and rationalizing things and trying to explain in my own mind why a bite happened or didn't happen. That way I can, you know, try to win on my next trip too. Try to win the trip. Try to win the day. And I typically win most of the days, but I do have slumps, and boy, I'm in one right now. I hope things turn, but I got a feeling we're in this little warm stretch right now. I got a feeling winter's going to come roaring back here very soon. We have more, you know, in the summer months, June, July, August, it's miserable hot. Oh, nice takedown. Nice takedown on the light tackle. Well, he nailed it, didn't he? He nailed it. Another small blue. Let's use our D-hooker on him, shall we? I think we shall. This one's a perfect size for this D-hooker. We'll take our D-hooker. Well, I may not be able to on this one because he's got the hook. There we go. Got the hook. I'm going to pull down with our left hand on the line, and we're going to flip him. And apparently, we're just going to get the line wrapped up with the damn D-hooker. You know what? Let's get the dang thing by hand. I was a little worried about that one anyway, because it's down in his mouth. Couldn't really get around the hook, and you just made a fool of me, fish. You made me look real stupid right then. I blame me being left-handed on why I can't hardly use that thing. I had a hard time down there with the guide in Florida using that thing, but I was trying to use it left-handed. I finally started using the D-hooker in my right hand like he was, and it started working out. But that one there obviously did not. I don't remember what I was talking about now. We got this barge coming behind us here now. We're going to have to use your indoor voice because you don't want them eavesdropping on us. I don't remember what I was talking about. I know I was talking about being in a slump, which I have been. But I just, man, I don't know what's up lately. Oh, I was talking about the weather. Like June, July, August, it'll be hot and usually dry, but the weather's consistent. Other than maybe some like afternoon pop-up storms, the weather overall is pretty consistent. In the winter months though, man, like we had the polar vortex come through. Now we got temps in the 60s. I wouldn't be shocked if we're back down polar vortex temperatures again here in a week or so. It's just constant swings of fluctuation of, I mean, big fluctuations in temperature that can drive your water temp several degrees one way or the other. We oftentimes get rain. Well, we haven't had a lot of rain so far this winter, but oftentimes winter, early spring, we do get a bunch of rain. And that can play havoc with our water levels too. And when conditions are always changing, that's where I typically struggle the most. You let me get things dialed in, kind of figure out where fish roughly are and what bait they're keyed in on, like I'll ride that bite out. But in changing conditions, I just don't adapt as good or as fast as what I would like to. And that's something that I need to get better on. I'm always trying to get better on, but always a work in progress. And I think that kind of goes back to over-analyzing everything, trying to rationalize everything as far as why a fish is where it is or doing what it's doing. I think that's part of why I do that. When really, in reality, I should just be saying, you know what? I like suspending baits. I like fishing how I fish. Just go out and do it. Whatever happens, happens. If you catch fish, great. If you don't, you don't. But just enjoy the process. If you can enjoy the process, that's one of the things about the planer boards. Like, I hate planer boards, right? They're just not fun. Half the fight is fighting the board, and you got so much damn line out. By the time you get to fish up to the boat or kayak, it's over. Like, the fight's, it's done, because catfish aren't a long fighting fish. There goes that barge by us. A little work barge or whatever. But, you know, with planer board fishing, like, when I've done it, I just don't enjoy the process. I don't enjoy the process of fishing. I don't enjoy reeling in the fish. Like, that's not as much fun. And it's like, what's the point? Is it just about results? Is that all it is? Because then why do this at all? Why not use commercial gear? Trot lines, jugs. You know, those guys are going to catch way more fish. They're going to catch more big fish over the course of the year than what you're going to do on rod and reel. So if you're going to limit yourself by using rod and reel anyway, then it needs to be something that you enjoy doing. You've got to enjoy the process. And for me, I mean, my favorite way to fish is suspending, obviously. But this right here, doing this, dragging baits without planer boards. That way, I mean, I've got shorter lines out. I've got a direct, as soon as I pick up on a fish, I'm in direct contact with that fish. That's certainly fun too. But most important thing, just enjoy doing what you're doing, man. If you can have fun with the process, then any fish you get are the bonus. I think that's part of my thing with that Hobie Lynx, is that just catching any fish in it is fun. And I've been trying to rig that thing up to where I can catfish in it, but it's really not a good platform for catfishing. It's great for the ocean. It's great for ultralight fishing. But for doing what I like to do with catfish, it's really not a good platform for it. And so I'm kind of torn on that. Do I make it work? Or do I keep my old town pedal kayak too? I'm not giving up the Lynx. Like, I mean, it's a great just grab and go boat because it's a lightweight. So if I'm going on a bait run, if I'm going ultralight fishing, especially if I go down there to the ocean, I want that Lynx. But I do like going out in a minimal setup, catfishing as well. Like, I mean, today, obviously, we're in this kayak. We've got the bow mount motor, all these accessories, whatnot. It's a bigger kayak. We can fish 4 rods off of it. But I like going out in a simple setup too. But it's just, man, I've got 3 kayaks right now. 3 kayaks. I've got 3 trailers currently. I've got to sell some stuff, man. I've got no room for nothing. I'm out of space. I gotta get some space back on my carport where I can actually park a vehicle. Like, there's no space on my carport at all for a vehicle. I've got this kayak that sits on my new trailer on one side of the carport. The other side has my lawnmower and my rolling utility cart that I put the links on. And then under the lean-to of my shed, I've got my Old Town kayak and trailer. And I currently have the trailer that I used to pull this kayak on sitting between my carport and my shed. So, I mean, I've just got stuff everywhere. I'm going to sell a bunch of it in the spring. Like, I gotta have a yard sale this spring and try to unload some stuff. But I got to figure out what it is I want to get rid of. And that I don't know yet. Part of me feels like I don't need the Lynx and the Old Town. But if I can't easily catfish in the Lynx, then maybe I do need to keep the Old Town. There's part of me that says, hell, maybe I keep the Old Town and sell this one. Rig up some motor on I wouldn't want to put a bow mount on the Old Town. Our front rod up here is getting messed with again. Has he got it? Nope. I yanked up on him there too soon. He wasn't ready yet. He wasn't ready yet, folks. You jumped the gun there a little too quick. You was 3 foot off the starting line and the gun hadn't sounded. Back rod's hit now. That was a better one right there. He's pulling some line. He's pulling line, folks. This is a better fish right here. It's on our shad. That's a better one right there, folks. We're 25 feet deep here. Yeah. Yep. This is going to be a better quality fish. He ain't fighting real hard right now. I feel like I'm mainly just pulling him. But I'm definitely pulling some resistance. He was stripping some line there first thing though, wasn't he? We'll just take our sweet ass time with him. It's nice to be hooked up again, y'all. I wanted to catch some fish today. I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to catch fish and I want to catch big fish. I don't think that's asking a lot. Tighten down just a little bit, try to get a little bit more pull on him. I mean, he is not fighting hardly at all. It's me just pulling him in, but like, I wonder, is it possible he's foul hooked? Am I pulling this thing in backwards? Is he wrapped up in my line maybe, and I'm pulling him in sideways? Wouldn't that be something? He'd be a dink or something. I'm just pulling him in sideways. Either way, it feels good though. I mean, I'm basically pulling him to me. Now he's coming at me a little bit. Get him up here. I ought to be seeing him here in a second or two. I'm glad y'all finally got something worth catching here today. About damn time. I'm tired of seeing y'all reel in these dinks. It's a good fish. I'm fearful he's gonna get. Let's reel in our front bait here, folks, before he gets in it. If y'all was a fishing partner worth a damn, you'd reel that front line in for me there. Okay. Got it out of the way before he can come up here and get in it. Oh man, this is gonna be a good one. I still ain't looked at him yet though, view. Let's try to get him on up here, get him up the surface so we can see him. Tighten down just a little bit more on that drag. I'm gonna be so disappointed if this is some foul hook dink because it feels good. Like, it's got me excited here, folks. I think this is gonna be a real good fish. Yeah, that's a really good fish. That's a whopper right there. That's a whopper, folks. That's a whopper. Yes. Yes, buddy. Yes. We got us a good one, man. Dragon shad, 25 feet deep. We've been working this creek all the way out. At it for, what, over 2 hours now. So, 2 hours, half a mile an hour. That's roughly a mile or so, give or take, that we've covered in this creek. And we put our baits in front of a good one, and he gobbled it up. It was on the shad. That's a really good one. That's the best fish I've got since I got back home from Florida right there. All right, let's get our glove here. Grab our glove. Be nice if one of y'all would land this thing for me, but hell, I can't even get you to bait the hook, so it's a wonder you even show up anymore. Oh man, that's a good fish, y'all. That is a good fish. Yeah, it looks like he's hooked good too. Let me give him a little slack. I'm gonna set this rod back in the holder and grab the line. Okay. Okay, look at that thing, buddy. That's a beast. That is a beast for sure, buddy. Golly whopper. Okay, fish. I'm gonna need you to behave now. Come on in. Come on in. That's a good one, buddy. Oh, buddy, that's a good one. That's a good one. Indoor behavior now, fish. There goes the hook. Oh, buddy, y'all. Set up the camera mount here for me, would you? Let's set that camera mount up there. Okay. Y'all hold this fish up here, would you? I'm gonna take a picture of you and this fish. Get the thing set right there, you go. Oh, y'all. Oh, buddy, that camera's crooked, I don't even care. I just wanna hold this thing up, man. There we go. Oh. Y'all, it took a couple hours. And really, it took me about a damn week. But by gosh, I got a good one, buddy. Oh, man. That's awesome. He's got a mark on his head here. I don't know if you can see that or not, right there on the right side. Oh man, he's heavy. This one's got some weight to him right here, y'all. Oh. All right. Let's do what we do on the big ones. Let's let him go. Get another bait out there. Man, if he's got some friends, I'm willing to play. That's a good one, buddy. I'm gonna let him go on this side. That was an ordeal right there, buddy. I'd like to have let him out a little more gently than that, but fish that big, you can't lean over too far, especially with this bait bucket here and all that. I ain't trying to go swimming today. Oh, fist pump, buddy. That's awesome, man. That is awesome. That's so awesome. That's the fish I've been looking for. Ever since I've been back home from Florida, y'all, I've been looking for that fish. Let's drop our tiny baits back down again. Let's send them back down. You know, I've been anchoring. I've been suspending lately. I was like, you know, it just ain't working. Like, I feel like I need to be on the move maybe. I need to be actively presenting a bait. Come out here, we do that today, and buddy, it's paid off, man. It's paid off. Let's grab one of these other shad here. Let's do the same thing we done, man. Take one of these shad, cut it off the tail there behind the dorsal fin. Cut that dorsal fin off too. You know what I kind of want to do? On our other rod there, we've got that skipjack head, which is my favorite bait by a country mile. I would rather have a skipjack head than any other bait most of the year. But in the winter, water temp's cold in the 40s. It's hard to beat gizzard shad. And we just got this whopper on the gizzard shad. I think we're going to go ahead and reel in our skipjack head and replace it. Let's replace this skipjack head with another shad. That fish right there just talked me into it. I love skipjack. I love skip, and we could possibly bust a big one out here today on the skipjack. But you got to go with what you got confidence in, folks, and I've got a ton of confidence in gizzard shad right now. Even more so after reeling in that beast that we just got. So we'll just run the same rig on this rod. Well, you know, why am I doing this? We've got these live ones right here. Let's take this one here. It's about the same size as that one in the floor. I'll go ahead and just... Here, y'all turn away again. Some people don't like seeing live fish get cut. It's okay to cut a dead one, but you can't hardly cut the live one. People get upset with you. Fishing's a brutal thing, folks. There he is. There's our live gizzard, smaller one. Let's send him out. Now, I'm going to let out just a little bit more line on the other one there behind us. All right. We still got that other one in there too. It's a pretty good size. Y'all, man, I feel good about that fish. I feel good about him. I've needed that fish, man. That boosts the morale. I've caught a bunch of fish in my life. I've had a lot of success. I'm gonna flip the back rod over now, I think. Yeah. Let's let out just a little bit more on that. I've had a lot of success, you know. But when you go through a slump, it can kind of mess with your mind a little bit. It can kind of break the confidence a little bit. What the hell is that sound? There's something going on over there behind us. Let's get rid of that. Put that bell over. Tell you what else I want to do too. It's been a while. Let's reel this in and switch it out and put a fresh piece of bait on our jig head. Yeah, that piece right there is about washed out. Let's take one of these others here. I'm gonna leave the gut pocket intact on this one. Just make it a little bit longer piece. I bet that's the siren over there at the nuclear plant. I bet that's what that sound is. I bet they're doing some kind of test, or else we're about to be blown to smithereens. Who knows? Good news, if you're seeing this, I guess it was just a test. All right, there goes our jig head back out. Okay. Put that back up. I think we've got everything out now. Both dragging rods refreshed, the jig head refreshed. We'll leave those baits on for the time being on the front rod there. Yeah, folks, we just, right place, right time. 25 feet, pulled that bait close enough to that fish to get its attention. Wasn't a very good fight. Like, I mean, he was rip and drag initially. But for the most part of that fight, I was just pulling him in, and I could tell he was bigger. At least he felt bigger. I'm like, you know, it's either got to be a big fish or I'm pulling one in sideways. But right place, right time, man. Boosts the confidence greatly. I don't mind having a bad day, couple bad days. Like, that's going to happen. But when you have a prolonged stretch of days, or it just ain't working out for you, it really messes with your mind a little bit. It does me anyway. You start questioning everything, and like, does what I do, does it not work anymore? Is it me? Like, you know, you play the mind games. And thankfully today, we can hold off on the second guessing, because now I feel better. We may not get another bite today, folks. I hope we do. But even if we don't, like, I'm going to go home happy today with having caught that fish and gotten some more, and, you know, easily gotten bait out here first thing. Like, everything's kind of worked out today. The only other, well, the last video you saw there, we got a few fish, a couple fun sizers, if memory serves me. Like, it kind of worked out. And then I had the trip where I got a really nice fish, not as big as that one, but it was a nice fish. But then I sat there in that creek mouth the rest of the afternoon and couldn't get diddly poo-poo. I mean, not even a tap. Even on the small bait, couldn't get a tap. But today, we've not had a ton of action, but we've had some action. And then that big fish, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. We'll keep making our way out, though. We'll fish our way out here to the mouth of this thing and see if we get on a concentration of them, a school of them or something. But it may just be that these fish are just working up. And like I said, I hate the planer boards, but it would be a more effective way to fish back here in the creeks. Once you're back in these creeks and fish can spread out, those boards are an effective tool. They're not very much fun, but they are an effective tool as far as getting the job done with the job of being catching fish. But just following this old creek channel, right, we was kind of going down the middle toward the back. Now, as you get out here, it gets a little wider, so I'd moved over, I don't know, 30 minutes ago or whatever, to try to get on one side of it. So we're going down kind of the right side here. I'll show you here on the graph as we're moving our way along. We're kind of working on the edge over here, more of this side of the contour than over here because it's wider. But 27 feet, moving half a mile an hour, 48.6 water temps out here where we're at. So water temps definitely a smidge warmer toward the back right now. Probably be even more so on a sunny day. If the sun happens to pop out at all, probably heat that shallow water up there with the darker bottom, heat it up even more. But I'm feeling so much better. I can't tell you how much better I feel after that fish. That was a really good fish. And listen, even though we're dragging, like I said, when you're dragging like I'm doing today, just directly off the back of the kayak, you get direct contact with the fish. That fish hits the bait, you pick up on it, you are in direct contact with the fish. Unlike with planer board, you pick up on the rod. At first, you're pulling on the planer board. And then you've got an excessive amount of line out because you got to put your baits out however far you want them running, and then you put your board on, and then you let out even more line to get your board to spread out away from you. It's just a ton of line. And like that fish there wasn't a great fight. That initial surge when it was stripping line there in the rod holder, and then when I picked up on it, like that was pretty much the fight of that fish. If we had got that on a planer board rod, we missed the whole fight. We're just pulling in dead weight for the rest of it. So it's an effective way to fish how we're doing it, but could be more effective with using planer boards, as bad as I hate to admit it, if you're the type that likes them kind of things. And some people love planer board fishing, to each their own. I'm not telling you what's fun and what ain't for you. I'm just saying it ain't fun for me. You know what I need to do, folks, before we forget? I need to get in that front hatch and show you that battery. That's what I need to do while we're in between bites right here. I need to get in there, because if I don't do it soon, we're going to start catching fish again, and I'm going to forget. And then I ain't going to do it. Let me pull up on my phone here, too, that company. It's called EnjoyBot. And the one I got here, well, I had the damn thing pulled up. Now it's disappeared on my phone. My cell service here ain't very good, folks. We may have to wait to do this. I may have to sing for my supper a little later in the video because I can't get to, okay, there it comes. We got a whopping 1 bar, 2025. You can't get but 1 bar service, LTE out here. Great job, AT&T. But anyway, I got the 12 volt, size 24, 100 amp hour battery from EnjoyBot. Bluetooth, so you can monitor it on your phone. And it's self-heating, which means you can charge when it's freezing cold outside. And that's a big thing with these lithium batteries as far as charging goes. And it may be why I damaged my other batteries, was trying to charge them in the cold. They don't like cold weather. But this EnjoyBot here, it's small in size, which I'm going to show you in my hatch here in a minute. Group 24 size, but they're cheap. $249 for the self-heating and Bluetooth model. So like I said, man, these other more expensive batteries, yeah, they got a 10-year warranty on them, but hell, by the time you spend the money shipping the battery back to them, spend the money shipping the battery, the new battery to you, you've spent a couple $100. You might as well just buy a whole new battery, which you can get one of these EnjoyBots here, for example, for $249. Or if you get the, if you don't care about the self-heating or the Bluetooth, they have other models that you can get even cheaper. But I'm going to show you inside my hatch here as Chainsaw Man gets to it over there. Good timing. My front hatch, I don't have a lot of stuff in here. This is the battery here. You can see it doesn't take up much space in there. That Group 24 size is small. It's right around 20 pounds, so it's lightweight. Let me see if I can pull this up here. My trolling motor wire comes around the side here, and I plug it in with a connector. I have the same male connector feed on my battery charger. So when I get home and need to charge, I just pull that out, plug my charger in, and you're good to go. That other box up there is my fish finder battery. I don't run them both on the same. You get interference if you do. But man, I'm telling you, small size, these batteries have really shrunk in size and in weight. I mean, that's 20 pounds. So even if you're on a road trip somewhere, you're traveling, you got to take that thing inside to your hotel, charge it up. Not a big deal at all to do so. It's not like lugging around a big lead acid battery. But yeah, this one here, I'm looking on my phone. It's got a 10-year warranty too. But like I said, by the time you spend the money to ship it back, you might as well just buy a new battery. I'm gonna try, yeah, weight 22 pounds, it says. Feels lighter than that though. I mean, it's really a lightweight battery. And I'm gonna pull up the other thing. They've got their own app. Let me see. Yeah, so the battery here, 87% right now. This is a free app that you can download on your phone. It links to the Bluetooth feature of the battery. So any given time, if you're curious about where your battery life is at, you just pull out your phone, look at it, and you can see how much charge you got left. And that's a real helpful feature. You know, you don't want to be, if you're making a long run somewhere, you're out on the water, you're trolling, it's good to know what kind of battery life you got left there. So anyway, y'all, EnjoyBot is the name of the company. You can find them there, enjoybot.com. I don't think they gave me a discount code to share with you all. But I'm sure there's plenty of discount code. Hell, there's one extra $20 off their code on their website right now. So you can find some codes and probably get a few dollars off extra on that price there, I'm sure. But so far, so good with this battery. I've not had it long, but the trips that I have run it, it has run just fine. It definitely holds a charge better than the other ones that I had. So, like I said, for the price, some of these lithium battery companies like EnjoyBot, man, the price has come down so much. It's worth buying them versus the more expensive brands that you're probably going to have the same problems out of in a few years, and you can more easily and cheaply replace with one like this than what you can the others. So that's what I'm doing going forward. I'm going to keep using the less expensive lithium batteries until they quit holding the charge, and then I'm just going to replace them. That's what I'm going to do. So anyway, again, thanks to EnjoyBot for sending me the battery. We're putting it to use out here, and yeah, y'all, if you're in the market for some batteries, check them out, enjoybot.com. So now that we got the bills paid, let's get back to catching some fish here, y'all. We got rods out. We're about to go through a part in this creek that's going to narrow down. It's going to choke down up here. And last time I fished here, I ended up in some snags going through this area. We got this guy working on a dock over here. He's on the phone. He's eavesdropping us while we're eavesdropping him. I hope we get past him here before he gets off that phone, because I don't want to have a conversation out here today. I ain't trying to conversate. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I don't really want to interact with people today. Except for you all, but I don't really have to interact with you all. Thing's still pulling smooth back here. I really can't believe we ain't got nothing on that jig head. Well, we got that one first thing, but all the way up through here, we've pulled that thing. We ain't got nothing. I think if we had had a live thread fin, we would have got more. I don't know what all we would have gotten, but I think we would have gotten some stuff with a live thread fin. I have caught fish, though. I've caught crappie, yellow bass, drum. I've caught a lot of stuff on just a small sliver of cut bait on a jig head. Whether it's trolling behind you or tossing it out to brush piles and stuff. I've caught a bunch of fish doing that. Well, he's off the phone, but at least he's back to work, so we don't have to talk to him. I bet a lot of people this time of year, when the water's down like this, I bet the carpenters see a lot of work from homeowners getting their docks fixed and stuff. It'd be a good time of year to do it with the water being low. Be able to access stuff that you couldn't access when the water's up. I bet if a person had carpenter skills, they would be in business all winter long. I just can't work with tools. I'm not good at stuff like that. If it involves a tool, I just struggle. Everything takes me longer than it should. I mess up a bunch of stuff. You know how many times I've tried to use a drill to like screw something in, and I end up stripping the screw head. I don't know if it's I ain't putting enough pressure, the right angle, I don't know. But it happens all the damn time. It's so frustrating. It's probably because I'm left-handed. That's probably the cause. You probably need a left-handed drill if such a thing exists. The sun's trying to peek out a little bit too. I may have to bust out my glasses here in a minute. It's a nice day, though. A little bit cooler than it feels, a little cooler than it is probably because of the cloud cover, but it's a nice day. When you get this kind of weather in February, you got to take advantage, man. This back rod got hit. I've definitely taken advantage this week. I just ain't got the results I've wanted. But I've been out there taking the swings, man. That rod got nipped, but that was it. You know what I should probably do? I should probably dump the other shad that I have in my cooler. I've got them in a baggie. I've got my skipjack on ice. I've got my shad in a bag. I should probably dump them, put these gizzards in there, get them on ice. They've been sitting out here a couple hours. We'll take these, whatever we got left with us here, we'll take these with us today. Let's go ahead and do that. Well, if I can find the damn thing. Had it buried down in that ice. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and these fish are going to have a smorgasbord right here because I'm about to dump all these. Wash this bag out a little bit too before we put them others in. Go ahead and put these other gizzards, go ahead and get them on ice. Because we got a bunch here, no sense in wasting them. We'll just take them with us when we leave today, and it'll be a head start on the next trip, which may be tomorrow if weather allows. We've got this rain coming in sometime this afternoon, and I think it may linger tomorrow. So no better than I've done fishing lately, I'm probably gonna skip out on fishing in the rain. But if there is a window tomorrow that I can get out and go, I'll probably do so. And we may start with these gizzards. Throw that big one in there that we had on earlier. He'll make a good cut bait. We didn't have to spend much time throwing that net to get bait today, though. It was pretty obvious where they were at. We could easily see them back there. That's always... yeah, that one don't look good. Yeah, that one don't either. Always helpful when you can see where they're at, see where you're throwing. Just keep finding shad. Goodness gracious, there are some more. Ah, come on. Slippery little devils. There we go. Okay. All right. Throw them out. Look at that right there, folks. Got a nice big bag of them. Stick it down there in our cooler and we're set. I gotta move us over a little bit though. We're gonna run up on the shore here. I've been doing that. Y'all ain't paying attention where we're driving. Gonna run us up on the bank. 30 feet deep here. at the moment. We need to lower this one down a little bit. Actually, you know what we probably need to do is replace that, actually. They've been down there a while. Let's get one of them shad that we just put up. Well, the sun's gonna pop out now. Yeah, let's go ahead and switch out our, you know what we might do? That's a smaller shad right there. Let's put that shad head on one of them hooks on our light tackle rod. We've been just using the chunks. Let's put the head on there. We hook a big fish on this light tackle rod, we're in for a good time. It's gonna be an ordeal. It's gonna be fun. It'll happen too at some point. I don't know when, but it will happen. All right. Fresh bait on that. Let's send it down. Down it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. "31 feet deep. Okay, let's put that back. I hear a boat idling back there behind us. This part of the creek right here really chokes down. And so we may end up having to kind of speed up through here if we get some boats coming to get out of their way. We've kind of, way we're at right now, we're kind of taking up the whole daggone channel with the water being down. I'm filming this on a weekday, so there shouldn't be too many boats out today. Warmer weather's definitely brought out the boats the last few days, though. Everybody, if they've had a day off or they've been able to take a day off, they've been on the water, it seems like. Like I said, man, it's February. You get some warmer temperatures, you got to take advantage. You just don't get opportunities like this every year. Usually, and here's the other thing, too, is usually, if you do get warm days in late winter, early spring, the wind is usually howling. We've not had the high winds. Like, it's relatively calm out here today. So unusual. But my day's made either way, y'all. Hopefully y'all's is too. Smooth sailing from here. It's just a matter of, will we catch anything else? And I sure hope we do. I'll tell you what else I'm hoping not to catch. I'm hoping not to catch me a ticket. So, yeah, I'm friends with a lot. I'll tell you this story. This is interesting. I'm friends with Elias V Fishing YouTube channel. And he's still down there in Florida. Him and I, he went to Florida, then I went to Florida. And then I went back to Florida, and then he went back to Florida, and we overlapped like 2 days, and we weren't able to get together and fish down there. But anyway, he's been down there. And he messages me the other day and said he had talked to a cop, or FWC, I think, Florida Wildlife Commission, Control. Their version of a game warden, basically, Florida's version. And he was taken out, he said he's taken out of the water, and they stopped and just checked his license, whatever. And the cop that stopped him knew him from YouTube. And he said, we've got a guy watching you. And apparently, them game wardens down there in Florida, they watch YouTube channels to catch people breaking the law. I mean, how the hell do you get that job? Sit on your ass in an office all day, watch fishing YouTube videos, and hope to catch somebody incriminating themselves on video. What an awesome job that would be. Well, that's somebody's job down there. They're literally watching people on YouTube. And apparently, if they live down there in Florida, they look them up and go knock on the door and give them a ticket. Now, I asked Elias, I was like, well, wonder what they'd do for us, because, I mean, he lives in North Carolina and I'm in Tennessee, so it's a long drive to come deliver us a ticket. But I've worried about, like, here in Tennessee, I've lived here, I've grown up here, I know the laws, I know what I can and can't do. There are some gray area stuff when it comes to me, like cutting crappie and bass. There's some gray areas there with the wording of the law, because we can use sport fish. Using them as cut bait is very gray with how things are worded in our license book, regulations book. But when it comes to like going out of state, especially down there in Florida, when I'm shark fishing, I'm using fish that I've caught for bait, right? I mean, I'm using cut baits, live baits, whatever. Some of those fish, I don't know what the hell they are. And I'm like, and I'm filming these unedited videos, so it's not like I'm gonna pull a magic trick or anything on you and say I'm using one thing and use something completely different. Like, you're seeing me catch the fish, you're seeing me bait the hook, you're seeing a snag right here, I think. I knew he was going to get snagged pulling through here. I'll come out of that. Gosh dang it. Let me reel in the others here. Let's reel in the other. We're going to go back and get that one. Dadgummit. Every daggone time I try pulling through here, I get snagged something. Every daggone time. Let's get our jig head in here. We'll go back and see if we can pop it free. Keep from having to. Oh, crap. Boy, I done it then. I got that line all wrapped around that rod tip. There we go. All right. Now, let's go get this thing. One of these trips that you didn't see, because I done so poorly, I just scrapped the video and the fish and I got snagged 2 rods at the same time. And I was trying to get one free, and a fish apparently hit the other one, knocked it free, and swam into 2 of my other lines that wasn't tangled. I just turned the video off after that because I was saying so many cuss words. I was like, it's like, yeah, I was about done filming anyway to that point because I hadn't done any good. prior to that fish, and then after he got me in that mess, I was like, yep, calling it a day. Come out of that. Sometimes I see right there is what we're hung up in, that little brush pile right there. There it comes. There it come. It still looks in pretty good shape. We may go ahead and switch it out though, since we got it up here. I'm gonna probably cut that one that we had on alive right there too. I don't think he's kicking anymore. I'd run that hook through both lips, so he's probably kicked the bucket. I didn't think he'd last long, but I was hoping he'd get bit shortly, but it just didn't happen down there. We'll cut him too. We'll switch this one out. We'll cut the other one. I'm gonna run us through this little choke area right here, because we'll just be snagged up again if I don't. We'll get everything reset, their speed and all that, and then I'm gonna finish telling you the story about the game wardens who's watching you on video down there in Florida. That's the job, man. Like, how do you get that job? What's the job description for that? Must be able to physically sit in a chair and watch YouTube videos for 8 hours at a time. Like, what an awesome job that would be. But yeah, like, what do you do? Let's say I broke the law down there, which again is possible because I mean, I'm using fish. I don't know what the hell they are oftentimes. I break the law, they're not gonna come knock on my door. They're gonna mail me a ticket maybe? I don't even know how that would work. But my Florida videos, the first ones I did there in November on that trip did really well. The other ones been hit or miss on the January trip. But with as many views as I've gotten, statistically speaking, 1 or 2 of those views probably come from the game wardens down there. So if I did break the law somehow, it's possible that I've got a ticket coming at some point. But so far so good. And here's something else too I noticed. And I'm pretty sure, I don't want to jinx myself with this and then get a big bill. Let me get this suspended rod back down here. So when you go to Florida, let me throw out our jig head here too. Well, I've got that dang line wrapped all around the rod tip again. Y'all got that line all twisted up somehow. Let's throw this back out before we get our other ones. All right, there's that. Now let's just take a knife here. We'll see if he's done. Yeah, he ain't moving. Actually, I'll just take these scissors and do it. Get that one going. Now let's switch out our other one for a fresh piece. Might as well while we got it up here, right? Just put on a new one. So we got plenty of them. Cut that tail off, get it bleeding. They can have that one, I guess. Feed the hungry children down there. Although we haven't come across any schools of small cats out here today. I mean, the bites have been really limited, even with the smaller bait offerings that we've had. Like, I thought we should at least get some action on those, but today's not been much different with some of my recent trips that you haven't seen. Like, even the smaller baits aren't getting a lot of attention. I just don't think they're just there in good numbers. Or there's just so much bait down there that they just have so many options. They don't necessarily need it. But yeah, anyway, y'all, Elias talked to that game warden down there in Florida, checked his license, and the guy knew him from YouTube and told him straight up, like, we got somebody watching you and other YouTubers. And they just go knocking on people's doors. And Elias said that they actually have a YouTube channel themselves, like they bust people on the bridges down there, which I would think, like, that should be the bulk of their time and attention for them game wardens down there in the Keys area. It would be on the bridges, because, man, there's bukus. I don't know how much a buku is, but it's a lot. And there's a lot of people down there on them bridges that fish. And it's all the bridges. Like, if there's a walking area on the bridge, people are fishing off of it. And they're down there, I mean, they're meat hunting, of course. They're trying to catch fish for dinner. So they're going to be more likely to keep something maybe a legal size or whatever, than somebody like me that's just going to catch something, stick it on a hook, and try to feed it to a shark. But the law's the law. If you break it, you break it. But I'm just... I've been turned in to the game wardens here locally a lot for people thinking I'm breaking the law, even though I ain't. But I ain't had no trouble out of them. Like me using crappie and bass and stuff for bait. Like, yes, I cut them, but I show them on the measuring board how long they are. And it's a gray area the way it's worded. I forget the way it's worded off the top of my head, but the wording is such that you can use sport fish for bait as long as they're calling rod and reel, meet the creel requirements and all that. The other part of that is there's another passage on down in the regulations book. I'm going to flip this other bell over there that says if you're checked by a game warden, they have to be able to identify the species and the length of the fish. Now, part of you would probably say, well, if the game warden has to be able to identify the species of the fish and the length of the fish, then you can't cut them. But that's where the gray area comes in. Because while it says they have to be able to identify or verify the length, it doesn't say how they have to verify the length. Do they have to be able to put the fish on their board? Or can I show them video footage, unedited video footage of me having that fish on a board and proving its legal size prior to me cutting it? Can they take a head and a tail section of a fish, put them together on their board and meet the minimum size requirements? Like, it doesn't go into great detail of how they are to verify. And that's where the gray area comes in. Because, like, if I ever was to get a ticket because I've cut one fish up, because, I mean, let's be real, even if I have multiple game fish on me, whether it's crappie usually or bass, I only cut one up at a time. So the most they could give me a ticket for would be one fish. Because having, let's say I got 5 crappie in my cooler, that's not illegal as long as they're all legal size. Like that's fine. I think we can keep 15 a day, 30 a day here. It's a lot, more than I would ever want to keep. So that's not a problem. The problem arises when you cut the thing. And so, I mean, I would just turn over my camera and be like, look, go back to where the beginning of this video, you'll see me cut the crappie or whatever fish I'm using. And if that wouldn't be sufficient for them, then I guess they would give me a ticket. And I assume if you get a ticket, I've never had a ticket from a game warden, but I assume if you got one, it would be like getting a speeding ticket from a cop out on the highway, that you would have an opportunity to either plead guilty and pay the fine, or take your day in court and go in front of a judge. And that's what I would do. If they ever give me a ticket for that, I would go in front of the judge and I would highlight the passages of our regulations book that's very gray on how they would determine the length of the fish, and then I would take my video proof of the fish being adequate size before I cut it. And would it get me out of the ticket? I don't know. I would hope it would. Most of the time, video proof of something is good enough to prove you're innocent. But if it didn't, you know, I'd pay the fine for one fish plus the court cost, which I don't know how much that is. Once upon a time, I had heard it was like $130 per fish. So factor in court costs, you're probably less than $500. I'm going to take my chances with that, folks. I've had more than $500 worth of fun by using crappie and bass for bait with the fish I've caught with them. So I'm going to take my chances. And if they don't want me taking my chances, I suggest they change the regulation book to better clarify. If they don't want us cutting the bait, which why the hell would they not? Why is it okay for you to be able to take crappie out of the water to eat for consumption, but I can't take them out and cut them up for bait? Like, that makes no sense. Either way, the crappie dies. But if they don't want us cutting up sport fish for bait, then they need to change the wording of the rule to say, right now it says that it is legal to use sport fish as long as they're caught in rod and reel, creel requirements, all that. They need to add a line in there that says can only be used whole if used for bait. Because it doesn't currently say that. It doesn't specify that you can only use them live. It doesn't say. So they need to fix the wording on it if they're going to try to enforce such a thing. But again, I've never had a problem with, I've had a bunch of people that's had a problem with me. They light me up in the comments. They light me up on social media. They call TWRA on me. I've never had anybody from TWRA approach me. And like, it's well known. Like, I have a big following on the YouTube. People, TWRA there, they can look me up, pull my fishing license, come knock on my door if they want to. I've never had any issues with them. I don't think they care about me using 5 crappie a year, 10 crappie, however many I use, not very many, as bait. Again, it's stupid to me. All these crappie fishermen around here, hell, they'll keep a limit every day they go out. And most of them just pack their freezers and, yeah, they're going to eat some, but they don't eat as many as what they take out of here. Me, I'm going to keep 5 or 10 a year. Like, I don't get them that often. I don't use them that often. Like, what's the big deal? And it ain't like I'm setting a trend or something here. Like, I'm not You don't see a bunch of other catfishermen out here using crappie just because I do. It's not like I'm inspiring other people to do it to the point we're going to knock a dent in the crappie population. If the crappie fishermen themselves can't knock a dent in the crappie population, us catfishermen sure as hell ain't going to do it. Hell, most catfishermen can't catch crappie anyway. I suck at it myself without live scope. Hell, I can't hardly catch them. Unless I just get lucky, find a brush pile or a down tree or something, just happen to have some crappie on it on a particular day. But most of the time, hell, I don't catch them. So I don't see the big deal in it. I've never understood this, and I've talked about this on video before. I'm not going to rehash it much on here right now, but it's like, who the hell determined that largemouth bass was a sport fish and gizzard shad over here was a trash fish? Like, who makes those rules? I would argue that skipjack, which is considered a trash fish to most people, a bait fish, if you will, they put up more of a fight and are more fun to catch than a largemouth bass. You give me a 3-pound skipjack versus a 3-pound largemouth, the skipjack's going to pull harder, he's going to jump higher. It's going to be a damn good time, man. But yet, bass, highly prized, highly sought after. Skipjack, you catch a 3-pound skipjack, look, good for you, high five. Nobody cares. It's just, it's weird to me. I don't get it. And so, it's, in my mind, fish eat fish. Big fish eat small fish. So, the most prized fish in a body of water ought to be the biggest ones of whatever it is. Out here, it's catfish and striped bass. Upper end, you've got some muskie. Carp are a big fish too, although they're not really. When you think of fish eat fish, they're mostly plant and other stuff. Versus, they will eat a fish. Buffalo too, but it's not a big portion of their diet is made up of it. But they're still a big fish, and they're considered a trash fish too. Really, the only things out here that people care about is bass and crappie. That's it. Stripers. Although, we don't have a lot of striper fishermen out here. The ones who do are mostly just guides. I don't really know of any. I don't know of any hardcore striper fishermen. Only time I ever see them is below the dams. But like out here, once you get below the dams, like I don't ever see anybody striper fishing. Unless it's a fishing guide, of course. Okay, that's a boat going to that dock over there to that fella that he was working on. Thought we had somebody coming up behind us here. Y'all, I feel like we've definitely gotten less action the further, once we got through that little choke point there on the creek, like we haven't gotten another tap at the bait. We'll go out here a little bit further. I don't know that I'm gonna end up going up the main channel out here today. We're already 3.5 hours into this. It's taken a long time to get out of this creek. We started so far back in it, it took a while to work our way out. You know, 1/2 mile an hour, it takes you 4 hours to go 2 miles. But with the water temps being as cold as they were, I definitely didn't want to go any faster than that. In fact, I could make an argument we should have maybe been going slower today. But I mean, a half mile an hour did get us a few fish, and it did get us a big fish, so there's that. But typically, the colder the water, the slower I want to go. It's not a rule that's set in stone, but wintertime, 0.3 to 0.5. Summertime, you can go up a little bit faster if you want. I mean, a couple of years ago there on Kerr Lake, I won that tournament going 0.8 to 1 mile an hour, and that was the only way you could get a bite. You went slower than that, you couldn't get them to eat it. It's almost like you needed to be going fast to trigger a strike. That's another one of them things we talked about earlier. It's like you can try to rationalize that and analyze it, but you're just going to spin yourself in circles. Like, it's like, why was it that day, that whole week really? Because I'd went over there and pre-fished to get ready for that tournament. And I stumbled into that pattern. I was drifting, I was trolling, and the wind kicked up real bad on one day, and I was tired of fighting it. And I had my lines out, and I'm just going to let this wind blow me back to the car and call it quits on the day. And I got bit. And then another rod goes down. And I looked out at my graph, and the wind's blowing me over 1 mile an hour. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And so I'll go out the next day, and I test that. Go through an area, 1/2 mile an hour, nothing. Go back through it again, 1 mile an hour, boom, you're getting hit. And so I go out there on tournament day, and I set my speed like 0.8, and I didn't go slower than that all day, and we ended up winning a tournament. But it's like, they're hitting baits that I was dragging going 0.8, 1 mile an hour. But they wouldn't touch it if it was going slower than that. It's like, why? If you bring that bait in front of that fish's face at a 1/2 mile an hour, why will he not touch it? But yet, if you pull it by a little quicker, and so then you start playing the mind games. Like, well, is it because the water's maybe a little clear, he can see it? There's something about your bait, something about your rig that's, he's taking a look at it and it's deterring them. Whereas if you pull it by a little quicker, they don't have time to look at it, they just have to react. You know, who knows? Who knows what it is? But what I do know is that's what it took to win. That's what it took to catch fish on that particular stretch of days. And that was in, I think that tournament was in August. Pretty sure it was in August when we had that tournament, 2023. But yeah, you just never know. I mean, again, you just, day to day, every day you hit the water, it's a puzzle. And what I want, above all else when I'm fishing, is to figure out that puzzle. And this past week, man, I just ain't been able to. I've tried different things, different places, different depths. I just ain't been able to figure it out. But I feel like we've got something going out here today with moving baits, and 25 foot there where we got that big fish. So maybe those intermediate depths right there, although I think that fish was probably just, we probably either got him on the way in or the way back out of the creek would be my guess. I don't think he's just going to be hanging out there at the 25 foot depth. We're getting all sideways here somehow or another. See if we can get things straightened back out here. We're going to go around a little curve in this creek, so we're going to navigate a little bit. Drop down, we're 37 feet now. Lower that down a little bit. I ain't seeing nothing out here though as far as bird activities. The few birds we seen was back there in the corner of the marina. We seen the shad, of course, flipping at the very back there. But out here, once you get out here, water temp's holding 48.6, which is a big increase from what it was before we had this warm stretch, but just not seeing life out here. I'm not seeing any kind of surface activity, no bird activity, just nothing. We ain't had no taps in the bait in a long time either, I mean, even the small baits, but honestly, I mean, we didn't have a lot of action on that, even coming out of the creek here in the shallows. I think we might have gotten more had we had the live thread fins maybe, but can't prove that, obviously, without not having them. I see a boat out there in the main channel, though. Out there to the right there. I guarantee you they ain't bass fishing, so we'll see. I'm just going to stay the course, I reckon. We're this far into it, might as well. Work our way on out. I'm probably not going to go up the channel, though. I'm going to have to, whenever this battery dies here, I'm going to get on out of here. I got to get some stuff done today. Got an appointment this afternoon. One of the things I'm going to do today, too, is drop off a bowling ball. Me and my girlfriend both got bowling balls for Christmas, and we got to have them drilled for our hands. We'll swing by the bowling alley and have them do that today. I don't know. I've never had a bowling ball drilled before. Like, do they do that while you're there? They measure your hand and send it off? Like, hell, I don't know how this works. I do want to get I want to get my ball drilled, though, for my, okay, it's snagged up over here. Well, it's going to snag again. Y'all pull that thing out of there, would you? I'm going to give it some slack here and try to, there it comes, raise it up and over. Most of the time that'll work, but sometimes, like that last snag we had, sometimes it don't. I'd like to have me a bowling ball, though, drilled for a left-handed person. Use them ones up there at the bowling alley. That's available for everybody. They're drilled for right-handed people. And so I'm going to have mine drilled for me. But I don't know the process of that. I'm pretty ignorant on that kind of stuff. Yeah, once this battery dies, I'm gonna call it a day. We're fishing anyway. And tomorrow, if the weather allows, we will try it again. I've about give up hope on getting videos on back-to-back days. I mean, I can go fishing back-to-back days, but it seems like if I have a trip good enough that's worth posting, I'm probably going to have to go 2 or 3 more times before I get another trip like that these days. My percentage of successful trips right now has not been very good, but it'll turn. It'll all balance out. We'll go through a stretch at some point this year where I'll go 10 trips and have 10 successful days. It all averages out in the end. just while you're going through that slump. And that's the way it is. It don't matter if it's fishing or something else in life. If you're going through a little slump of some kind, it can be hard to see your way out of it while you're going through it. But better times always coming. What's that saying? Tough times don't last, tough people do. Something like that. Seems like that's a Scott Hall, Razor Ramon type thing. Oh, here we go. There's one on the light tackle rod. Where you been, fish? Been waiting on you. Was hoping to get several of you today on this light tackle. You've let me down. It would be interesting to drag with this light setup, though. We're going to rig up something. We're going to do it, folks. Some kind of light tackle dragging rig just for doo-doos and giggles. We're going to try it. Here's another one that hook is positioned as such. At least he's got his mouth open for me to grab him. If that hook's down in there enough, I don't think our hook de-hooker is going to work very good. Which one did he? I think he ate the head bait. I had the head bait portion on the top. Yeah, because there's the chunk on the bottom right there. It's still on, which he has managed to get himself wrapped up in. There you go, fish. Thanks for helping me out with that fish. He flipped his tail and knocked the line off of it. Perfect. Got that fish trained. He is helping us out. Well, we'll stick us another one on. Another headpiece on there. Maybe that'll conjure us up another one. Yeah, I'm thinking we use them shiner hooks that I got. Maybe we'll need a smaller float for the rig because we use most of the time I'm using like a 3-inch peg float on my normal dragging rigs. That would be too much of a float for a smaller bait. I think you'd probably float the whole rig up. But I think maybe a smaller, maybe like a little crappie float. Maybe something like that. Although it may not pull through the water too particularly good. I'll play around with it. I'll figure out something. We'll try that at some point just for doo-doos and giggles, just to try it. It might be interesting. May not be, it may be more interesting to me than for some of you, but we'll try it nonetheless at some point. I do like catching fish on that lighter tackle. Fish that size right there, them little eaters, way more fun to catch on a lighter tackle rod than heavier tackle. But when you hook into a golly whopper like we got earlier, if you hook one of those on a lighter tackle rod, you're going to be fighting it a while. It's going to be a battle for sure. And the thing about those, like take the shiner hooks for instance that we had used there when we fished out of the links, like the wire is a thinner wire, but the eye of the hook is smaller too. So you can't fit the heavier mono, like I use 80-pound mono on my leaders, my normal leaders. You can't use that on them little shiner hooks because you just won't be able to thread it through. So you got to use lighter line. We're gonna figure out something though. Comes another one of them barges through. He's went and picked him up a load of something, and I think that's another boat over there across the channel, ain't it? On the other side over there. I think it is. It was kind of blended in with the rocks, but I think that's another boat over there. I assume they're catfishing. I don't know what the hell else they'd be doing out there in the main channel. You don't see no bass fishermen out fishing main channel edges. I just think, one of them, I actually went drifting on one of the days you didn't see. I was suspend drifting, but we had a little flow that day, and so I drifted a big stretch of main channel edge. But I didn't. That was actually the day I'd got them two lines hung at the same time, and then a fish hit one of them, and got my other two lines that wasn't hung. Like I was on the main channel, I was drifting. But just where I've been, the fish ain't been. I think though, I mean, again, I'm probably overthinking it, but I think right now, with all of that bait having moved back in the creeks, and some creeks are certainly better than others, but right now all that bait has moved up so shallow again, I think that's going to be the play. I think the fact that I've busted a big fish in there today, and we've seen all that bait, I think that's probably, assuming I get to fish tomorrow or the next day, weather depending, I think I'm probably going to do more of the same of what we're doing out here today, which is just dragging baits, primarily dragging baits, but maybe throwing out a light tackle rod or the jig rod, something to kind of supplement, but definitely focus. Our primary efforts when we leave the house will be to try to be trolling, actively moving some baits. Because, I mean, even the fish we've got today, which have been few in numbers overall, I don't know how many we've got, like 5 or 6 fish now total in the time that we've been out here. It's not a lot. But it's more than what I have gotten on some trips recently where I've been either suspending at creek mouths, or like one day I was back in a creek and I'd cast baits out into the creek itself. We've got more fish today than what I've been getting. So I think we've got the right plan. It's just a matter of getting our timing right and getting the right creek. And I don't know, maybe I should try some out on the main channel too, but just be actively moving. If this creek hadn't been so long, we would have probably worked the channel some today. But I've come out of this creek here. I'll show you again on the map here. You can kind of see how this works out. So here we are. I don't know if you can see or not with the glare, but there we are. This creek runs out of here. It turns up this way and then goes to the left here. The old creek channel anyway. The old creek channel. There's a point that comes off the land right here, and you can kind of see how the land comes out there above the water, but it does the same thing under the water for a long stretch out through here, and that is represented here. And that old creek channel goes around the edge of that point, which will be right out here. You just can't see it because it's underwater, and loops around. So I'm just following. Right now we're just trying to follow that old creek channel all the way out. But I had fished here in this creek before I went to Florida, and we got a few fish. And so I thought, let me try it again now. And you know what? I mean, it paid off today with the big one. But probably, I think tomorrow, if I can fish tomorrow, I'd like to try to do a similar thing that we've done today, but maybe pick a creek that's a little bit shorter distance. That way we could start at the back of the creek and work our way out to the main channel and kind of hit it all. This one was just so long. It took so long to get out here. I mean, it's going to take a full 4 hours just to go from the back to the original creek mouth out here. So maybe get a shorter creek, get on the water, throw the net, try to get us some super fresh bait, maybe some smaller thread fins for our light tackle, and then just get to it. I think today worked out pretty good because we was able to get some fresh bait, like super fresh bait, but we didn't have to spend a lot of time doing it. That's one of those things with these videos. Like, I want to bring you all with me for every step of it, right? Like, I want you to be a part of this adventure. But if it's a day that takes me forever to get bait, also, I don't want to spend an hour of a trip that I'm only planning on fishing for 3 or 4 hours. I don't want to waste an hour of it for you all watching me catch bait. I mean, I think it's helpful. I want you all to be a part of that experience, but at the same time too, I know it's probably not very entertaining just seeing me throw a cast net, unless I snag the camera and fling it in the water, and that might be real entertaining for you, but we don't want that to happen. I don't anyway. I definitely don't want that to happen. Yeah, I think that person over there across the channel, I don't know about this one up here for sure, but that one over there, I think I see planer boards behind them, so I think they're running boards over there. I don't find boards, again, I don't like them. But if I'm out on the main channel, like, I don't feel like I need them, because I'm going to work the edge of the ledge. I'm going to work a break line. I can do that effectively with 2 rods. Where I feel like the planer boards really shine is in places like creeks and flats, where fish are going to be spread out. Out on them ledges, they're not really that spread out. They're going to be following predictable trails, contours out there. So I don't find the planer boards to be all that necessary. I mean, look at the tournaments I've won against the planer board guys when I'm running 2 rods. I mean, I've done it enough to where once is an accident, twice is a pattern, the old saying there. Like, I've won a few tournaments now just running 2 rods up a ledge against guys that are running the planer boards and running 8 and 10 rods. This wind has hit us sideways all of a sudden. It's got us all cockeyed right here. It just suddenly picked up. Where are we at on battery? It's about dead. Me and you, we about to part ways here, folks, and I'm gonna shut the camera off because battery's gonna die here in a little bit anyway, but you ain't missing nothing, because once I turn this camera off, I'm gonna reel up and head back, I guess. I feel like, from a confidence perspective, I was real confident until we got through the little choke point of this creek. And that's where the depth really dropped off. And that's when we've had, what, 1 bite since we got out of there? I feel like our better action, albeit not much better, was 25 feet and less. If I can fish tomorrow, if the weather will allow me to fish tomorrow, that's where we'll start. We'll find us a creek, a shorter one, hopefully, go to the back, work our way out, but it'd be interesting to know what's going on in the main channel here, but from 25 feet to 37 feet that we're at out here now, there's just been nothing going on. But folks, my battery, we're in the home stretch of the battery, folks. It's when it gets in the red, I know this thing's about to crap out, and I need my sunglasses on here too, folks. But you know, 4 hours out here roughly. We got us a golly whopper. We got several fish. We was able to get bait during that time. That's a pretty productive day, especially considering the days I've had lately. So I'll take it. Anytime I catch a big fish like that, I'm going home happy for sure. And even though he didn't fight particularly hard, it was still awesome to sit there and hold that fish up. So I had a good time out here. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm gonna try to take advantage of this warm weather we got. If it ain't raining, if the wind ain't blowing 100 miles an hour, we're going fishing, y'all. Now, whether or not we're going catching, that's a different story, but we at least going fishing. So anyway, thanks for coming with me today. I'll see you on the next trip.